Gu Qingxi, a mathematical prodigy, was exceptionally admitted to the research institute. The institute granted permission for his family to accompany him. Everyone was genuinely happy for me and came by to offer their congratulations. But only I knew who would ultimately leave with him. It turned out to be Yi-sun, his mentor's daughter, Qianyan. Yi-sun isn't ready to face you yet, stay here for the time being. Once she's able to accept you, I'll come bring you over, in my past life. I actually believed those words. I spent my whole life clinging to his offhand remark. This lifetime, he took Yi-chan to the northern frontier, so I packed my bags and headed for the top-secret division down south. When he was transferred to the south, I applied for a post in the capital. In this life, we've been worlds apart, we shall never meet again. 1. Comrade Qianyan, welcome to the 201 Classified Division. We'll pick you up on time tomorrow, street corner. The guard saluted before driving off. The moment I received the job offer, I finally let out a sigh of relief. Nobody knew I'd been reborn. In my past life, I gave up everything for an offhand remark from Gu Qingxi. I abandoned my dreams and willingly stayed here for the rest of my life. This lifetime, I waited here for 3 whole days before finally receiving my admission letter. Now, Gu Qingxi left carefree, taking Yi-sun with him. I won't care about it anymore, and I, Qianyan, will carve out my own path in this world, too. On the way back, all the neighbors came up to congratulate me. Nian, you're in for a life of ease now, off to be an official's wife. That's right, Comrade Gu is young and capable. Nian really married well. I just smiled without saying much in response. As I pushed the door open and was about to start packing, I saw someone standing in the courtyard. It was Santian. No, it was Gu Qingxi, whom I hadn't seen for decades, not since my previous life. I spaced out for a moment. The man was tall and long-limbed, with strikingly handsome yet aloof and distant features. Nian, where have you been? Didn't I tell you to slaughter the chicken at home and bring it to Yi-sun? Gu Qingxi frowned at me. Of course, on this very day in my past life, Gu Qingxi had said the exact same thing. Why does he always seem to think that I'm the one who wronged Yi-sun? Yi-sun always clung to him, even after he married me. Over time, I noticed Gu Qingxi's special treatment of Yi-sun, and it started to bother me. One evening after dinner at our place, Yi-sun asked Gu Qingxi to see her home again. It happened to be my birthday that day. He could tell I was upset, so he didn't go to see her off that day. Yet ironically, Yi-sun was nearly dragged into the bushes that very day. After that incident, Yi-sun became deeply shaken. My very presence triggers her anxiety. That's why Gu Qingxi feels he's failed her, and I've failed her too. They keep expecting me to give in to her, over and over. Since Yi-sun has such a strong reaction to seeing me, he demanded that I stay away from any place she might be. What's more, the family member chosen to accompany him this time was none other than Yi-sun. He even went so far as to say, Qianyan, since Yi-sun can't bear the sight of you right now, you should stay behind for the time being. I'll bring you over once she's ready to accept you. Words like that, Qianyan, instinctively. I hid the admission letter behind my back. He frowned at my hands hidden behind my back. What are you holding? 3. I flinched and took a step back. My mind raced for an explanation. He took a step forward, then seemed to remember something. Never mind, I know you're in one of your moods again. I'll go myself. I watched this refined man before me, now doing all this for Yi-sun. He'd willingly chase after an old hen, I think. He must have been deeply in love with Yi-sun, right? Otherwise, a man who'd never cooked before wouldn't have the patience for such things. However, none of this has anything to do with me anymore. I went back inside and tucked the notice between the pages of my English dictionary. Soon after, the aroma of stewed chicken wafted from the courtyard. Times were hard for everyone back then. Some impoverished families couldn't even afford cornbread. All the chickens we raised in our yard ended up in Yi-sun's stomach, while fetching water to wash my face. I saw the man come to a halt right in front of me. Qianyan, Yi-sun couldn't finish a whole chicken, so I saved some for you. Oh, that's actually quite thoughtful. I remember this day from my past life, because I was furious that Gu Qingxi stewed all the chickens I had painstakingly raised for Yi-sun, and he even planned to bring Yi-sun along on the trip, so I threw a hysterical fit at home. He even slapped Gu Qingxi across the face. To this day, I still remember the look on his face, that strained composure and profound disappointment. He watched me spiral into hysteria, watched me unravel like a madwoman. This lifetime, let's just forget it. 4. Okay, thank you. I emptied the basin of water onto the ground and turned to go back inside. but Gu Qingxi's eyebrows furrowed, his expression darkening as he stared at me. I froze. I thought he didn't want to leave the other half of the chicken soup for me. I'm actually not that keen on having the chicken soup. Maybe you should just take it all. Gu Qingxi froze, looking at me in surprise. You're not going to make a scene? I'm a bit confused. What's there to make a fuss about? It's just a chicken, after all. Since we've already eaten all the others, what's the point of making a fuss over this last one? Besides, I know that even if I did make a scene, it wouldn't change Gu Qingxi's decision one bit. Seeing he still looked at me with distrust, I quickly added, I truly don't mind, and I won't cause any trouble. You should go find Yisun now. What if she gets worried when she doesn't see you? Gu Qingxi gave me a silent glance before turning back to retrieve the chicken soup. Go ahead and sleep first. I'll be back early. I nodded absently. Alright, but deep down I knew, once Gu Qingxi walked out that door, it would be days before he returned. He only came back once, the day before he and Yisun were set to leave. The reason given was that Yisun couldn't bear to be without him, so perhaps this was the last time I'd ever see Gu Qingxi. Not that I particularly cared. Anyway, I went to the kitchen and finished the remaining half bowl of chicken soup. In my past life, I wouldn't have touched a drop of that soup, even out of spite. I just wanted Gu Qingxi to see it. Just watch how the chicken I painstakingly raised ended up in Yisun's stomach. And I didn't even get a single sip of the chicken soup. Looking back on it now, how foolish. He doesn't even want you anymore. Do you really care that I didn't have a sip of chicken soup? 5. I went through all my belongings at home and packed them up. I'm not taking many clothes with me, just what I packed, the rest I plan to give away. Gu Qingxi and Yisun are leaving the day after tomorrow, and I happen to be leaving that same day. Once we leave, we won't ever be coming back, so there's really no point in keeping most of the things in the house. I gave Aunt Lu the coffee mug she'd been admiring for ages. Aunt Kong's daughter had patches all over her trousers, so I passed along my spare pair for her to wear, hearing that Aunt Jane's son next door was being sent to the countryside. I brought over the 10 jean of cotton we had stored at home, with third uncle's son getting married soon. Those thermoses we had around the house came in handy for their new place. After a few trips in and out, the house suddenly felt much emptier. Before going to bed at night, I was still thinking about going to buy some of our local specialty pickles in the morning. Since I'm about to leave, it won't be so easy to get them anymore once I'm gone, in the middle of the night. I kept feeling like someone was watching me. My eyes snapped open to find Gu Qingxi standing at the foot of the bed, watching me. What brings you back? The question slipped out before I could stop myself. Gu Qingxi gave me an inscrutable look. Didn't I tell you I'd be back soon? You're lying. In your past life, you were gone for 3 days straight, but I didn't press the matter. I mumbled and rolled over to fall back asleep. Nyen nyen. I heard someone softly calling my name. I turned over in bed. Need to wake up early tomorrow. I need to get to sleep right away. 6. Early the next morning, when I woke up, Gu Qingxi was still asleep. I carefully lifted his arm from where it lay across my waist. Only then did I pick up the basket and head out to the street. I bought a few jars of pickles and some salted fish. I planned to cook them when I got back, so we could have them with steamed buns on the road. But when I returned with my basket, I heard cheerful chatter coming from the courtyard. Brother Gu, what's the research institute like? Is it really crowded there? By the way, do you think this outfit is presentable enough? I was thinking of buying a couple new pieces. What do you think, Brother Gu? I noticed Gu Qingxi giving verbal acknowledgements while his gaze kept drifting toward the doorway. When he saw me standing at the entrance, he instinctively stepped forward to greet me. You came back, but why didn't you go in? I turned with the basket in hand. I'll go back later, so I don't upset Yisun by being there. Gu Qingxi gave me a long, thoughtful look after hearing that. This is your home now. No, this isn't my home. I know, if Yisun makes a scene later, Gu Qingxi will still blame me for not keeping my distance. I remember my past life. I was fed up with Yisun's so-called trauma responses. Fed up with her claim that seeing me triggered unpleasant memories. After one particularly heated argument, I finally snapped and told Gu Qingxi, Yisun is faking it all. What right does Gu Qingxi have to treat me so unfairly? But what did Gu Qingxi actually say? He called me vicious. He knows perfectly well that Yisun's father died while saving him. I can't even bring myself to tolerate my benefactor's own daughter. And then she had the nerve to say, Qian Yan, this house is mine. My home is Yisun's home. Think carefully about who the real outsider is here. So now I understand. Me, I am the real outsider. Never mind, I'll come back later. I tried to leave, but Guqingxi held tightly onto my arm. Nian Nian, I told you, this is your home. He stared at me with unyielding determination. I had no intention of picking a fight with Guqingxi. Alright, if he wanted me to go back, then back I'd go. Sure enough, the moment I stepped inside, Yisun shrieked and ducked behind Guqingxi. Brother Gu, why is she here? Make her leave. Get her out of here. I can't stand the sight of her. Aya. I shot a glance at Guqingxi. See, before Guqingxi could even tell me to leave, I quietly slipped out. So, with nowhere else to go, I ended up sitting for a while at Aunt Zhao's place next door. Just as Aunt Zhao was telling one of her old stories, Guqingxi walked in. Oh, Commander Gu is here to pick you up. You should head back now. You're leaving tomorrow and must have a lot to pack. Go on, get going. I stood up and followed Guqingxi home. You really should clear things up with everyone. Otherwise, after I leave and you stay behind alone, people will laugh at you. Guqingxi hesitated for a moment before speaking, so he was aware that taking Yisun away and leaving me behind, I responded with a faint would make me a laughingstock, yet whether in past lives or this present one, he has always made the same choice. The pickles and salted fish I bought still needed to be put away. 7. I went to the kitchen with a basket on my arm. The man leaned against the doorframe, watching me with a complicated expression. The institute has a cafeteria. You don't need to do all this. My busy hand stilled. Oh, so he thought I was the one who did all this. He was meant to take these with him. Without a word, I continued preparing the pickled vegetables and salted fish, then carefully packed them into glass jars. When I turned around, I noticed Guqingxi's hesitant expression. He seemed to want to say something but held back for a moment, but in the end, they left. They just kept busy with their work. Soon after, I heard some noise in the yard, then I heard voices. I had just stepped out when I saw Yi Qian tugging at Guqingxi's sleeve, coquettishly pleading without pause. Noticing my presence, despite claiming she'd have a panic reaction upon seeing me, Yi Qian now took a step forward. Sis Nian Nian, I'm leaving with Brother Gu tomorrow. The northern regions are windy and dusty. Could I have that wool coat he gave you last year? Guqingxi furrowed his brows slightly and looked at me. It suddenly dawned on me. So that's why he'd been hesitating. He wanted to ask me for the coat. I used to treasure this piece of clothing so much, I wouldn't even dream of giving it to Yisun, let alone wearing it myself. But honestly, I never planned on taking it with me anyway. Indeed, sure, just give me a moment. The moment I finished speaking, Guqingxi froze completely. He seemed genuinely surprised that I didn't make a scene. Hold on a moment, I said. Say that again. Since Yeqing likes it, just let her have it. It's just a piece of clothing. I took out the folded clothes, only to see Guqingxi looking at me with hurt-filled eyes. You don't want this piece of clothing anymore. What do you mean I don't want it? Wasn't it him who brought Yisun to my doorstep demanding it from me? 8. None of that matters now. I placed the clothes into Yisun's hands, her expression equally stiff. However, I have a new scarf here as well. Take it with the rest. Of course, this scarf was also a gift from Guqingxi. Guqingxi shot me a glare through gritted teeth. Xiao, Nian. I ignored him and turned to Yisun instead. Is there anything else you need? Yisun was about to speak when Guqingxi gave her a rather rough tug. Since you're being so generous, why don't you give Yisun the jade bracelet my mother gave you as well? Yisun's face lit up with surprise as she looked at me expectantly. Sister Chanyan, would that really be okay? Guqingxi stared at me unblinkingly, as if determined not to miss the slightest shift in my expression. When I remained silent, Guqingxi let out a cold, derisive snort. Since you're so reluctant to part with it, then, Chanyan. I ignored Guqingxi's angry shouts and went back into the room. That's wonderful. Truth be told, I never intended to take the bracelet with me. It was all packed up and placed in Guqingxi's wardrobe. I thought if he ever came back, he'd naturally find the bracelet there. Even if he doesn't come back, I'll write to let him know when we get divorced someday. But since he's giving the bracelet to Yisun ahead of time now, it certainly saves me a lot of trouble. However, just as I was handing the box to Yisun, Guqingxi suddenly grabbed my wrist. The grip was so tight it felt like he was going to break my wrist. Xianyan, are you really this nonchalant? The words were spoken through gritted teeth. A flicker of unease crossed Guqingxi's usually aloof eyes. The hand gripping my arm trembled faintly. I couldn't help but feel startled. Wasn't this meant to be a gift for someone? Now I agreed to it. Why does he look upset again? I don't even want to understand. Xiaoyan, you're wonderful. I don't understand. Naturally, Gu Qingxi snatched the box away. Don't come crying to me later, alright. The man seemed to be doing it just to spite me. He deliberately opened the brocade box right in front of me. The jade bracelet was slipped onto Yi Sun's wrist. It looks lovely. I couldn't help but murmur in admiration. Over the past 2 years, Gu Qingxi had given most of his stipend to Yi Sun. He pampered her like a privileged young lady, keeping her hands free from any household chores. Her arms were pale and delicate. The jade bracelet looks much better on you than it ever did on me. Gu Qingxi froze, then shot me another disbelieving look. Without a word, he took Yi Sun's hand and stormed out, slamming the door behind them. I shook my head and went back to my own business. And then, it was past midnight when Gu Qingxi finally returned. 9. I was gone for so long. Weren't you worried about me? The man stood at the foot of the bed, staring at me with stubborn intensity. I find this rather odd. You're a grown man. Why would I be worried about you? The frost in Gu Qingxi's eyes melted, replaced by bewilderment. You always waited for me at the door when I came home late before. No matter how scorching the summer or freezing the winter, I never once went to bed early and left him alone. But today, I didn't even wait for him. Nor did I leave a light on for him, but you told me not to wait for you. And you said my actions were causing you trouble. Gu Qingxi was at a loss for words. He looked at me with a complicated expression. Soon after, I felt the other side of the bed dip slightly, then a hand slipped under the hem of my clothes. My body went rigid, and I abruptly sat up. I fought back the urge to retch. I'm going to sleep in the other room. Since you're going out tomorrow, I don't want to disturb you. I carried my quilt and went to the next room. Before going to bed, I couldn't help but go to the bathroom and wipe myself over and over with a towel. As soon as I opened the door, I saw Gu Qingxi leaning against the doorframe with a cigarette in his mouth. I paused for a moment. I stepped past him without a word and returned to the adjacent room. Before falling asleep, I heard footsteps pacing back and forth outside my door. The sounds didn't subside until daybreak. I was up at the crack of dawn. I steamed a basket of buns and made Gu Qingxi's favorite shumai. 10. I was born into a family that favored sons over daughters. When I was 14, my mother tried to marry me off to a 40-year-old widower, just to get a bride price for my brother's wedding. I fled for my life, nearly starving to death in the remote mountains. It was Gu Qingxi on a mission who led me out of that isolated valley. He taught me to read and sent me to school. He showed me the ways of the world, that person I used to be. Starting as a worthless country girl, good for nothing, gradually learned to read and write, and went to school, became well-educated, polite, and knowledgeable. I'm getting better, little by little, and all of this is because of him. He encouraged me and helped me. He even made it possible for me to go to school. For half a month straight, I pestered the principal every single day. Not only did I chop all the firewood at his house, but I also filled the water vat to the brim. I even ran across half the city just to help the principal find a book he really wanted. During those years, my life revolved entirely around Gu Qingxi. That Gu Qingxi, so brilliant, so handsome, and so incredibly talented. It's like the moon in the sky. Falling for him, to me, is truly the easiest thing, and as luck would have it, he likes me too. Once again, this wandering soul has found a home, the person I used to be. I'd give up everything to stand by him, to protect this home. It's not such an absurd notion after all. Even though this home, seems like it, only truly existed for 3 years, I'm still grateful to him. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be who I am today. But, in my past life, all those years of waiting, let's just consider it repaying his kindness. In this lifetime, Gu Qingxi. 11. I'm not waiting for you anymore. I need to start living my own life now. 12. Just as I was about to head out, Gu Qingxi woke up. Nian Nian. Gu Qingxi instinctively took 2 steps forward. 13. I turned back with a smile. Dinner's ready in the pot. Gu Qingxi fell silent for a moment. You know, you didn't have to step outside. I gave a soft laugh, turned away, and waved my hand. At the street corner, the military vehicle was already waiting there. Comrade Qiao Nian, welcome back to the team. The guard saluted and took my luggage. 14. I was just about to get in the car. Nian Nian, where are you going? I turned and saw Aunt Zhang from next door walking toward me with a basket over her arm. Aunt Zhang. Nian Nian, where are you heading? Aunt Zhang cast a somewhat deferential glance at the guard, her eyes brimming with confusion. Weren't you supposed to leave with Dean Gu? How come? Where's Dean Gu? Then he continued. Aunt Zhang, the person he wants to take away, was never me. I fell silent for a moment. What? Aunt Zhang stared at me in disbelief, but just yesterday. You gave us all the things from your house, and now you're leaving too. Aren't you leaving with Director Gu? Where are you headed? The guard beside him suddenly snapped a salute. Comrade. Comrade Chiao's destination is a classified facility, its details aren't for public disclosure. Aunt Zhang stared at me blankly, her lips parting slightly but no words coming out. Aunt Zhang. I have to go now. Under Aunt Zhang's dazed gaze, my car gradually faded into the distance. Oh my goodness, this is terrible. Aunt Zhang dropped her basket and dashed toward the Gu residence. Goodbye, Dean Gu. Dean Gu. Aunt Zhang arrived breathless from running. Dean Gu. Hurry, Nian Nian's been taken away. 15. Just as she pushed open the Gu family's front door, she happened to see Gu Qingxi and Yi Qian carrying wicker suitcases. About to leave, Aunt Zhang's face froze in surprise. Her gaze settled on Yi Qian. For some reason, the words I had said echoed in her ears. Aunt Zhang, the one he's taking away, it was never me. Aunt Zhang, what did you say? Who picked up Nian Nian? Gu Qingxi felt a sudden tightness in his chest. It was as if a piece of his heart had gone missing. She said Nian Nian was picked up. Where was she taken? Aunt Zhang narrowed her eyes. Dean Gu, where are you taking her? Gu Qingxi froze for a moment. She glanced back at Yi Sun. The words about her coming with me to the research institute simply wouldn't come out, yet Yi Qian took a smiling step forward. Pity, Auntie, is there something you need? Brother Gu and I were just heading out. The unspoken implication hung in the air. Spit it out. We haven't got all day. Aunt Zhang snorted and turned to leave. Auntie, you said Nian Nian is gone. Who picked her up? Gu Qingxi's heart raced with uncontrollable panic. Wait, Nian Nian hasn't been herself these past few days. He went to find Yi Sun, and Nian Nian was no longer angry. Even when Yi Sun and Nian Nian asked for that dress she treasured so much, she only hesitated slightly. What astonished Gu Qingxi the most was that Nian Nian was even willing to give that bracelet to Yi Sun. Gu Qingxi was furious. This morning, Nian Nian left home even earlier than usual. He had assumed Nian Nian went out to avoid meeting Yi Sun. To his surprise, he overheard Auntie Zhang saying Nian Nian had been picked up by someone. Aunt Zhang turned around, her face wearing a faint, ambiguous smile. Little did she know. Oh, my mistake. Aunt Zhang couldn't help but think, since I hadn't told Gu Qingxi about my departure. 16. There must have been a good reason for it. Best not to get any more involved. Auntie, Gu Qingxi was about to chase after her, but Yi Xian grabbed his arm to stop him. Brother Gu, we're running out of time. Sister Nian Nian is probably still upset that you took me away, so she's acting out on purpose. Once we arrive and get settled, you can write her a letter then. Gu Qingxi hesitated for a moment. In the end, he nodded and took Yi Sun to the train station. Deep down, Gu Qingxi knew Qiao Nian was probably a bit upset. Qiao's decision to take Yi Qian away wouldn't change just because Qiao Nian was upset, so Gu Qingxi thought it might be good to let Qiao Nian cool off for a while. He could write back after he'd settled in at his destination. With time, Qiao Nian's anger would fade. It just faded away, just like that. Before this, same as many times before, after arriving at the research institute, Gu Qingxi was immediately swept up in a whirlwind of work. By the time things finally settled down, 6 months had slipped by. It suddenly struck him that in all those 6 months, he hadn't received a single reply from Qiao Nian. 17. He'd written to let her know he'd arrived safely right after getting to the institute. He also reminded Qiao Nian to write to him anytime if anything came up. He refused to believe it. Qiao Nian hadn't written back to him for 6 whole months, so he went to find the gatekeeper. Is there any mail for me? Gu Qingxi's voice was a little hoarse. The elderly security guard carefully searched through the mail. He shook his head. Even after returning home, Gu Qingxi still felt a bit dazed. Just as she reached the doorstep, Yi Sun came out to greet her. ACI, you're back. Gu Qingxi was about to respond when she heard the neighbor across the hall chuckle warmly. Look at this. Just look at this. Dean Gu and Comrade Yi are truly a loving couple. Every day after work, Comrade Yi keeps checking the entrance multiple times. Young couples are always so affectionate. Yi Qian let out a bashful laugh, yet an inexplicable unease stirred in Gu Qingxi's heart. Yi Qian is not my wife. He turned and solemnly informed his neighbor across the hall, but clearly, his wife is Qiao Nian. Why would anyone misunderstand the relationship between me and Yi Qian? The elderly neighbor woman looked utterly shocked. The smile vanished from Yi Qian's face. Little did he know, her face turned deathly pale. What is it? Yi Qian pulled Gu Qingxi into the courtyard. Her voice trembled. brother Gu, you, Gu Qingxi's expression turned grave as well. Sun, you are not my wife. When people misunderstood our relationship, why didn't you correct them? What if? What if people get the wrong idea? If only, what if Qian Yan misunderstands? At the thought of Qian Yan, Gu Qingxi didn't spare Yisun another glance. He rushed into the room and started writing another letter to Qian Yan. He writes with great speed, yet no one knows why. His hand never stops trembling. Qian Yan, my beloved wife, hope this finds you well. Did you not receive my letter? Are you still upset with me for not bringing you along? I've settled in here, he said, no text to translate. If you're willing, you can come join me now. It suddenly occurred to Gu Qingxi, it's been 6 months since I came here. Seems I still haven't sent Qian Yan's salary back. Panic set in as he rushed out to find Yisun. Where's my paycheck? Gu Qingxi thought to himself. Nian Yan hasn't replied to my letter. Her family must be struggling financially, probably can't afford postage. Right, I'll send money home right away. He asked Yisun for money to send a remittance. But Yisun just stood there awkwardly, unable to come up with a single cent. Me, brother Gu, have you forgotten? Your salary from the past few months was all used to pull strings for me, so I could become a teacher at the orphanage. We're running low on funds. Gu Qingxi stood motionless in the courtyard. The letter in her hand fluttered down to the ground. Without any word from me, Gu Qingxi finally made his way back home. On the journey home, Gu Qingxi was filled with apprehension. Over the past 2 years, he had written many letters home. 2 years later, yet not a single reply ever came. In fact, just 6 months ago, Gu Qingxi had even thought to himself that since Qian Yan was so easily offended, he might as well give her the cold shoulder a little longer. He even went so far as to deliberately include a photo of himself and Yisun when writing back to Qian Yan. In the photo, the two appeared quite intimate with each other. Gu Qingxi thought to himself. Surely Qian Yan wouldn't be able to hold back any longer. She'd have to write back now, wouldn't she? 1 month, 3 months, half a year, but nothing. All the letters he sent out vanished without a trace. There was no response whatsoever. He couldn't help himself. Decided to go back and find Qian Yan myself. Now that I'm going back in person, surely Qian Yan won't be angry anymore. Finally, on the train ride back, he'd already imagined 10,000 different ways their reunion might unfold. Will she be angry? He thought. Or are you just playing hard to get? No. Leaving Qian Yan alone for so long, Gu Qingxi thought. The moment he laid eyes on Qian Yan, he had to give her a tight hug. He had truly missed Qian Yan. Qian Yan was gone. The house remained exactly as it was 2 years ago, just before he left, because even the dining table in the main hall, but still held the breakfast dishes from that morning 2 years ago, when he and Yisun had left. His heart began to pound violently. Not even, this wasn't right. How could Qian Yan have never come back? He remembered the letters he had sent back. Wrong, stumbling out the door. Then opened the mailbox by the entrance. The moment the mailbox door swung open, a cascade of letters fluttered down like falling snow. He stared blankly at the sea of letters scattered across the floor. Oh, Qian Yan, where are you? It suddenly came back to him. That morning 2 years ago when he left, Auntie Zhao came rushing over and said Qian Yan was gone. She'd been taken away. His eyes lit up. He knocked on Aunt Zhang's door. I saw Gu Qingxi again. It was 6 years later. Back in those days, the moment I arrived at the office, I'd dive right into work with my colleagues. Our workload was so intense that we barely had any personal time. Due to strategic realignment, our entire organization has relocated. With this, we conclude. Later, Project 201 became known to the world. It spanned 18 years. Many senior scientists I know. We've finally returned to the surface. 20. No one knew about this place. Beneath these riverbeds, tens of thousands of scientists have been working tirelessly in silence. And there was my name, finally appearing among the long list of names. This was a story that captivated the entire nation. Even the organization I worked for became known to the world. Under mandatory orders from my workplace, I spent 3 months recuperating in the hospital. On the day of my discharge, a nurse suddenly came looking for me. Comrade Xiao, your family is here to pick you up. The moment I turned around, someone pulled me into a tight embrace. The person was trembling all over, their voice quivering as they spoke. I finally found you. Gu Qingxi and I walked home in complete silence. Nian. All along the way, many neighbors watched us with curiosity. Oh my, isn't that Nian? 21. Nian. Nyen Nyen is back. The neighbors were incredibly warm and welcoming. Everyone followed me all the way home. After the excitement died down, what remained, Nyen Nyen, was a floor littered with sunflower seed and peanut shells. Gu Qingxi returned after seeing the neighbors off, and I was just about to ask him to sit down. Yet Gu Qingxi rolled up his sleeves. I'll sweep the floor first, you take a rest. After 6 years apart, Gu Qingxi remained as elegantly transcendent as ever. Time seemed to have left no trace on his face. Honestly, I feel terrible about how I treated him. That departure stretched into 6 long years. We never even got around to finalizing the divorce paperwork. How are things between him and Yi Sun? Gu Qingxi prepared dinner, 4 dishes, and a soup, all my favorites. I have no idea. The bed has been made as well. 22. He even had hot water ready for me. I still wanted to talk with him, but he just nudged me into the bathroom. Nyen Nyen, go get cleaned up first. I need to step out for a moment. The man fled in a panic. I sighed and decided to take a shower first. By midnight, Gu Qingxi still hadn't returned. I can't hold on any longer. I have to get some sleep. In my half-asleep state, I felt the other side of the bed dip down. My eyes snapped open. But the man beside me didn't make any other movements. We lay in silence for a long while. Suddenly, the man's deep voice broke the stillness. I had a dream. I instinctively turned to look at him. Little did I know, the man beside me was already in tears. I had a dream once. In that dream, I also took Yeqian to the research institute. By the time I finished a project, half a year had already passed. It suddenly occurred to me that I hadn't written to you yet, so I hastily penned a letter. But on my way to mail it, I got into a car accident. When I woke up, I thought Yi Sun was my wife. Everyone else seemed to think so too. 23. His voice trembled. No one ever told me that Yi Sun wasn't my wife. When we arrived at the research institute, we were always seen together. To protect her from gossip, I stayed silent even when people misunderstood our relationship. So after I lost my memory, everyone assumed she was my wife. Naturally, I believed it too. Later, we had 3 children together. It wasn't until I retired, until my dying breath, that I suddenly remembered, it was you. You were my wife all along. The man stared intently at me. Have you had this dream too? You must have, right? That's why you could let go of my hands so easily. You left, for 6 long years. So, this lifetime, Gu Qingxi said he had been searching for me all those 6 years. It never crossed his mind that my absence from his life would cause him such anguish. He harbored deep resentment towards Yi Sun. 24. He despised Yi Sun for deceiving her in their past life. He claimed that after recalling events from their previous existence, he immediately cast Yi Sun out. He was the one who helped Yi Sun land her job in the first place. Of course, Yi Sun ended up losing that job later on. Then he had the nerve to say, refusing to take it lying down. Yi Sun wrote a formal complaint letter reporting his misconduct. He was accused of having an improper relationship with Yi Sun. Neighbors could corroborate this as well, yet he'd rather face formal complaints than be with Yi Sun. Although Yi Sun's complaint letter didn't cost Gu Qingxi his job, but it also cost him his position as dean. He was demoted to a regular staff member. However, even so, he was also determined to find me. You know, the first time I came back home. Do you know how it felt to see the bowl I'd eaten from before leaving still sitting on the table in the main room? Do you know how it felt when I saw the mailbox overflowing, and letters came tumbling out? Do you have any idea how I felt when Aunt Zhao told me you'd actually left this place long before I did? The man slapped himself hard across the face. He held me tight, his tears falling onto my neck. Nyen Nyen, please don't talk about divorce, or even separation, alright, slap. Promise me, I'll do anything, as long as you don't leave me. The man's voice, filled with regret and self-reproach, echoed through the pitch-black room. Gu Qingxi and I, of course, we ended up getting divorced. He was the one who filed. 25, stepping out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, his sharp features, now looked unusually pale. Nyen Nyen, if I hadn't brought up divorce, would you have kept silent about it too? I wanted to say no, that wasn't the case. I owe you, but I've already repaid that debt in our previous life. But the man kept rambling on. You used to always put me first, because you remember it was me who got you out of that backwater village. You also remember I was the one who sent you to school. You even gave up your own dreams for my sake. But Nyen Nyen, you owe me nothing. Because from the very beginning, I never expected anything in return. I married you because I love you, and now I'm divorcing you. and it just so happens to be because Gu Qingxi's steps faltered as he walked away. His usually straight posture now appeared slightly hunched. 3 years later, I remarried. I love you. My husband was a former colleague of mine. We adopted 2 children. 26. One of the children became a diplomat. He dedicated his life to scientific research. As for Gu Qingxi, later, I heard he never married. He eventually passed away in a nursing home. What does this have to do with me? However, the end. Story 2. When I was alive, Chu Yan was tired of me. He threw me a divorce agreement and married the woman he loved after she got pregnant. I died in a car accident on the day of his wedding. After my death, he went crazy. Later, I came back to life. Chu Yan assured me, I'm not with her. I'll show you the call records. I'll give you my WeChat password. I'll show you the car records. I'll even get the surveillance footage of my daily route for you. He pleaded exhaustedly. Can we start over? I refused. He was tired of me when I loved him. Now I don't want the sincerity he offers with both hands. 1. Chu Yan habitually tried to kiss me goodbye, but I smiled and dodged it. Frowning, Chu Yan's face turned cold. What else are you going to do? I've already apologized for the thing about Gushi. I lowered my head and smiled softly. I'm not causing trouble. I just have a cold and I'm afraid of infecting you. Chu Yan stared at me. Luo Fan, if you're afraid of me cheating, this isn't a good way to keep me by your side, is it? I tilted my head back and laughed. All right, hurry up and go to the company. Gushi is still waiting for you. With a sullen look in his eyes, Chu Yan slammed the door and left, still wearing a smile on my face. I turned and went to my brother-in-law Chu Tian's room. I smiled gently at him and said, are you hungry? Let's go downstairs and have some breakfast. Chu Tian was by the window. When he heard me, he turned his face. His eyes were dark and calm, and they softened a little when he looked at me. He nodded slightly. Okay. When I went downstairs with Chu Tian, Chu Yan called me again. Luo Fan, it was my fault to come back late after drinking with Gushi that day, but I was really just drunk and nothing happened. This is the 3rd time I've apologized to you. You should know when to stop and stop being unreasonable and making a scene. I see. I handed the milk to Chu Tian, feeling no ripple in my heart, and even finding it a bit ridiculous. I know nothing has happened between them now, but I also know exactly what will happen between them later, because I'm someone who has died once. This is my second life. In my previous life, I watched as Chu Yan and Gushi grew closer and closer. I cried, made a fuss, and tried to stop it, but I had no way. All I could do was make Chu Yan more and more tired of me, more and more fatigued, and he started staying out late more often. In the end, he threw me a divorce agreement when Gushi got pregnant. On the day of their wedding, I drove to find Chu Yan, hoping to make him change his mind, but I had a car accident. In the emergency room, I used my last bit of strength to call him. He didn't answer. It was Gushi who picked up the phone. And she said in a triumphant tone, please don't harass my husband. Keep your distance from a married person. I threw down my phone in despair, lost all desire to live, and the doctor could not help. Finally, when I closed my eyes, I felt pain and coldness. I was lying alone in the hospital. My parents were abroad, and everyone else was at Chu Yan's wedding. The doctor informed them one by one. Only Chu Tian, the illegitimate son of the Chu family who was ignored by everyone, rushed to the hospital and saw me off for the last time. I remember him whispering in my ear, don't worry, even if I have to bring down the Chu family, I will avenge you. I took a look at his face. His handsome face was filled with hostility at that moment. I was too weak to thank him, and I closed my eyes unwillingly. My last wish before I died was, if there is an afterlife, I will never love Chu Yan again. Unexpectedly, the heavens heard my wish and allowed me to be reborn. When I opened my eyes again, it was last night. It was the first time Chu Yan and I quarreled because of Gushi. Chu Yan and Gushi went out for dinner after work, got dead drunk, and didn't get home until late at night. They were covered in the smell of perfume. I had a big fight with him and kept crying, while Chu Yan just rubbed his forehead impatiently, saying that he was drunk and Gushi had taken him to her home and looked after him for a few hours. That's when I came back to life in this body. Thinking back on my previous life, I'm sure that at this time, nothing had happened between Chu Yan and Gushi yet. I still had a chance to save the situation, or rather, to stop it from happening, but I just closed my mouth that was about to question him, wiped away my tears, and quietly took the quilt to the guest room to sleep. No matter how much Chu Yan knocked on the door, I didn't open it. I firmly remembered the vow I made in my previous life, if there is an afterlife, I will never love Chu Yan again. Let him and Gushi develop their relationship however they want. I can even add fuel to the fire. This life is hard one, something I exchanged my life for. I don't want to be infatuated anymore. I want to live for myself and also repay the person who saw me off in the end. 2. I had breakfast with Chu Tian in the dining room. He kept his head down, revealing a section of his white and slender neck. His eyelashes as black as a raven's feathers covered his deep eyes. And I couldn't see his expression clearly. Since he was brought back to the Chu family, he had always been so silent and on the fringe. The Chu family disliked his background, and almost no one remembered him. Only I gave him gifts during festivals and sent him medicine when he was sick. It was just a small effort on my part, but in return, he saw me off on my last journey. It was really worth it. He had a small company that the Chu family had thrown at him. It was on the verge of bankruptcy, which was considered his family property. I remembered that during this period, he didn't sleep well and often woke up in the middle of the night and came downstairs to drink water, looking at his pale face and dark circles under his eyes. I thought for a moment and said, "You don't look well. Is your company having trouble operating? Do you need any help? I can invest." My parents were abroad, and I was in charge of the domestic businesses. In my previous life, I graduated from a prestigious university, but I devoted all my attention to Chu Yan. Chu Yan didn't like me showing up in public and didn't like women being strong. So I left the company in his hands to manage and was willing to be meek and submissive, sending him to work and looking forward to his return home. But in the end, he grew tired of me. He thought I was narrow-minded, staying at home and only caring about love. In contrast, Gushi was different. Gushi went in and out of the workplace with him, and her insights were naturally different, so she was more appreciated by him. In this life, I don't want to be trapped at home even if I die. I want to go back to my company. Chu Tian looked up at me and then lowered his eyes again. I just had a nightmare. Sister, you'd better take care of yourself. You've been married for 3 years and haven't even looked at your business, have you? Calling me sister was Chu Tian's little stubbornness. He called me sister before the marriage, and he still didn't change it after the marriage. Chu Yan lost his temper several times because of this, but he just couldn't seem to change it. I wiped my mouth. I'll take back my business. If you need investment, come to me. I will definitely help. Chu Tian looked at me deeply and then lowered his head to eat, as if he was considering something. After a while, he said, "Sister, can you rent me 2 floors of the office building under your name? I'll pay the market price." He explained, "The rent of my company is too high, and I've long wanted to find a new place." I thought that if I rented it to him, his company would be upstairs or downstairs from mine, and it would be more convenient for me to repay him. So I readily agreed and called the company secretary to make the arrangements. In less than 10 minutes, Chu Yan called me. "You're going to rent the office building to Chu Tian." I was trying on the professional clothes that I hadn't worn for a long time in front of the dressing mirror and casually replied, "Yes." "What's Chu Tian's background? Why are you dealing with him?" Chu Yan was annoyed. "You've been at home for so long that you don't understand people's hearts. My father has so many illegitimate sons, but only he managed to squeeze into the Chu family. His methods are beyond your imagination." He ordered me, "Just stay at home and take good care of yourself. Don't meddle in business matters. If you have nothing to do, go buy a bag, some clothes, or get a beauty treatment." I smiled. "But that's my business," I added. "It was mine before the marriage." Chu Yan paused for a moment. After a while, he asked me calmly, "Are you still angry with me?" "No." I told him seriously, "I won't be angry no matter what happens between you and Gushi. I just want to take back my business." "Do you suspect that I embezzled your money?" Chu Yan asked me in a solemn voice. "You wouldn't." I shook my head. "I don't have so many thoughts. I just want to take back my business. It's as simple as that. In my previous life, he never embezzled my property until I died. When we got divorced, he returned it all to me, apart from cheating and causing my car accident. Chu Yan didn't make any other mistakes, but this one thing is enough for me to never forgive him." Chu Yan's voice turned cold. "Do as you like, but my people will be withdrawn gradually." This was the punishment he gave me for the first time that I didn't listen to him. I smiled and nodded. "As you wish." 3. As expected, Chu Yan did what he said. He transferred 1/3 of his people away within a few hours, leaving me with a big mess, but I wasn't worried. Once you've died, you'll know that there's nothing more terrifying than death. When those people were handing over their work, they tried to persuade me, "The company is more stable in President Chu's hands. It would be so much better if you just stay at home peacefully and wait for President Chu to bring the money back. I made a pleased gesture. I wish you all the best in the Chu family. I remained unmoved, which made Chu Yan angry. He called me and said, "Don't challenge areas that aren't suitable for you. You're a domesticated rabbit and should be cute and carefree at home." I looked at the company's financial statements and wrote down the key points in my notebook while smiling. "What about Gushi then? How come she can accompany you in the business world?" He blurted out. "She's a fox, born to hunt." I reminded him slowly. "Gushi and I were classmates in university. I had better grades than her when we were at school. Even Gushi's job was recommended by me to Chu Yan." And Chu Yan probably didn't know that the cute rabbit he imagined actually had a bit of courage. Otherwise, where did the saying "a rabbit can kick an eagle" come from? In my previous life, I used my courage on death, and in this life, I'm using it for living. That night, Chu Yan didn't get home until 1 o'clock in the morning. He smelled of the perfume that Gushi often wore and had a faint smell of alcohol on him. I was looking at the financial statements under the lamp and casually said, "Take a shower before going to bed." Chu Yan frowned coldly. "Why aren't you making a scene today?" I stretched. "I don't have the time. Besides, isn't it normal for you to have business entertaining?" Chu Yan stared at me, as if he wasn't used to me being like this. He seemed to be waiting for me to ask him for an explanation with a whining voice, but I walked into the bathroom, took off the mask on my face, and took my time to do my skincare. He followed me and stood at the door. Looking at me in the mirror, he actually explained first. "I had dinner with a client, and Gushi got drunk, so I sent her home." I gave him a thumbs up. "Great. My husband is the best boss. I wish you and your secretary a harmonious relationship and keep up the good work together. Keep up the good work and speed up the process of Gushi getting pregnant as soon as possible. By then, I will probably have sorted out the company affairs, recruited new people, and can send the remaining 2/3 of the company's management team, along with the divorce agreement, to him as a congratulatory gift." But Chu Yan's face darkened. "Harmonious relationship isn't used like that." He reached out to me. "Luo Fan, stop being stubborn, be good, okay?" I burst out laughing. Chu Yan doesn't know himself well. He loves the little fox but always wants me to be a good girl. I walked around him and picked up the quilt. "You go to bed first. I'm still not recovered from my cold, so I'll sleep in the next room." Chu Yan's face turned dark. He grabbed my arm and gritted his teeth. "Do you think I'll never change? So you're being fearless?" I raised my eyebrows at him. "Yes." I pushed his hand away and went to the guest room. "I'm being fearless, but my fearlessness is based on my heart that doesn't love him anymore. Once my heart is dead, I have no fear." I heard Chu Yan's heavy footsteps, going downstairs, closing the door, and starting the car, all in one go. After a while, I saw Gushi's WeChat moments. There were no pictures, just 2 words, "distressed." I smiled and commented on it. "You might want to consider taking some quick-acting heart-relieving pills," she replied with an awkward smile. I closed WeChat, lit a cigarette, and watched the cigarette end glow on and off in the dark. There was a place in my heart that slowly cracked open. The old wound slowly bled out. In this life, I've accelerated the pace of Chu Yan's infidelity. It's not that I didn't hope that maybe things would be different in another life, but there's no difference. He still ran towards Gushi right under my nose. The next morning, Chu Tian and I showed up at the company together. The whole office building belonged to my family, and there were exactly 2 floors vacant, so I rented them to him. Chu Yan didn't come home all night, and he called me at noon, gnashing his teeth. "What's the relationship between you and Chu Tian? Are you starting to be disobedient because of him? The vacant floors are just a waste of money. Since Chu Tian can pay the market price, I'll rent them to him." "What's the problem?" I said slowly. "Why do you care so much about this? Isn't he your younger brother? I told you that he's deep in shrewdness and asked you to stay away from him." Chu Yan said coldly. "He suddenly wants to move downstairs from you. He must have some ulterior motives. Don't fall into his trap and then ask me to clean up the mess." I smiled politely. "I see, thank you for the reminder. Is there anything else, Luo Fan? When will you stop being unreasonable?" Chu Yan could hardly hold back his anger. "My patience is limited." I looked up at Chu Tian, who was listening beside me, and motioned for him to do as he pleased. Then I smiled and replied to Chu Yan, "Husband, this is what real unreasonable behavior is. Where did you go last night? Show me the driving recorder footage. Print out the call records. Tell me your WeChat password." Chu Yan fell silent. After a while, He sighed and reluctantly told me to be good, then hung up the phone. I also sighed. In my previous life, I was pushed to the brink by his clues. And I was almost driven crazy. I had indeed forced him like this before. I still remember the look of disgust in his eyes at that time. He said that Gushi would definitely not check on him like this. He said that even if something happened between him and Gushi, it was all my fault. Now I don't check up on him at all. But he doesn't seem very happy either. Chu Tian sat opposite me and took a sip of tea. You're not happy? I forced a smile. Well, it's a quarrel. Who would be happy about it? Chu Tian lowered his eyes, hiding his expression. He said I have ulterior motives towards you. I didn't take it seriously and asked with a smile, do you? Chu Tian suddenly looked up. His eyes were dark, and my reflection was in them. Yes, I wasn't on guard at all and smiled. Tell me what you want. I'll give it to you without hesitation. I hold grudges, but I also remember kindness. I must repay the kindness of him seeing me off in my previous life in this life. Chu Tian lowered his head to drink tea and didn't say anything else, just the corners of his mouth curled up slightly into a beautiful arc. In the following days, I was so busy that I was constantly on the go. I got home around 10 o'clock every day, but Chu Yan came home even later than me. I couldn't be bothered to care about him. As soon as I got home, I washed up and went to the guest room, locked the door, and went to sleep. Sometimes I sigh and think that if I hadn't left the company to Chu Yan in my previous life, maybe I wouldn't have ended up the way I did. After being so busy at such a high intensity, one doesn't have the energy to indulge in sentimentality. Chu Tian moved his company downstairs to mine at the fastest speed. Sometimes we would go to work or get off work together. I hadn't been in the business world for a long time and was still slowly getting used to it. From time to time, Chu Tian would invite me to have lunch, and during lunch, he would give me advice and solve my doubts. At first, I didn't take it seriously. After all, he was younger and couldn't have much more experience than me, but later I was gradually left speechless in astonishment. He could be half a teacher to me. He helped me resolve many difficult problems. He was in no way inferior to Chu Yan. I was puzzled. How do you know so much? Chu Tian smiled and sipped his tea. After a while, he looked out the window and said leisurely, when my father was teaching Chu Yan, I secretly learned outside the door. He asked me calmly, do you think Chu Yan was right, that I have a deep shrewdness? I lowered my head to eat the dishes. What does that have to do with me? Anyway, you won't harm me. Chu Tian paused. Are you so sure? I nodded. The person who drove me to my death was my husband, while he was the one who swore to avenge me when I was waiting alone for death. I trust my intuition. Chu Tian seemed very happy. He smiled at me, and it dazzled my eyes. I had never seen him smile before. I never knew that his smile could be so bright and dazzling. He started coming upstairs to find me when he had nothing to do. He would teach me what to do with the company documents and also began answering work calls in front of me, not hiding anything from me anymore. Only then did I realize that the small company that the Chu family had thrown to him, which was on the verge of bankruptcy, had already been revitalized by him. It had even become a new force in the capital market that couldn't be ignored. The simple office environment was just on the surface. I began to understand what Chu Yan meant by having a deep shrewdness, but I didn't care. My intuition has always told me that although Chu Tian looks at me in a strange way, he will never harm me. I was still sleeping in a separate room from Chu Yan. Chu Yan still came home very late, with a faint smell of perfume on him. Sometimes he would also hide to answer the phone, but later, seeing that I didn't react at all, he simply answered the phone in front of me. Without exception, all the calls were from Gushi. Some were about business matters, some were about caring for his health, and from time to time, she would also send her regards to me. I could hear all of it, but there wasn't a single ripple in my heart. I just found it noisy. Later, whenever Chu Yan answered the phone, I would leave with my computer, smiling gently and politely at him. You go ahead and talk. I won't disturb you. I closed the door and went to the guest room. I heard a loud noise in the bedroom. I didn't know what Chu Yan had knocked over. I couldn't be bothered to care and went straight to sleep. That night, Chu Yan was sitting in the dining room alone, drinking a lot. He was so drunk that he was staggering. He came up and knocked on my door. I didn't open it, but he kept knocking. Being very stubborn, I said helplessly, I'm going to bed. I have something to do tomorrow morning. Chu Yan said in a hoarse voice, I haven't had anything happen with Gushi. I was just trying to make you angry. I can swear, he said angrily. It's all because you don't care about me. You don't even bother to make a scene. Why? I smiled. because I believe you, let me go to sleep, okay. Chu Yan seemed very painful. I'm your husband, I should be holding you while we sleep. I have a cold. You've been having this damn cold for 2 months. Chu Yan suddenly flew into a rage. I'll show you the call records. I'll give you my WeChat password. I'll show you the car records. I'll get the surveillance footage of my daily route for you. I'll even copy the surveillance footage of Gushi's home for you. He was exhausted. Let me in, okay. I didn't open the door. He was tired of me when I wanted his care. Now that he was offering his sincerity with both hands, I didn't want it. Chu Yan leaned against my door and slept for the whole night. Early the next morning, with bloodshot eyes, he looked at me seriously, not missing the slightest expression on my face. Do you not love me anymore? I smiled and stroked his face. Don't think too much, I just have a cold. If it were in my previous life, I might have been moved and would have hugged him and cried my heart out, but in this life, I calmly watched him slam the door and leave. After dying once, a person can become heartless. 5. Chu Yan didn't come home for several days. Gushi called me and earnestly said, "What's wrong between you and Chu Yan? He's been in a really low mood these days and always asks me to drink with him in the middle of the night." Strictly speaking, you should call him Mr. Chu. I stared at the document approvals on the computer and also consulted her about several business issues. By the way, Gushi has good working ability, so why not make use of it? Gushi was confused by my questions. After she came to her senses, she couldn't believe it. You'd rather care about your company than pay attention to the fact that Chu Yan isn't coming home, she insinuated. He always asks me to drink with him and keeps complaining that you're not sensible. Aren't you afraid that you'll be replaced by someone else if this goes on? Like by you, right? I stared at the computer and asked absent-mindedly. Gushi paused. I just can't bear to see Chu Yan in pain and want to offer him some comfort. I smiled and repeated her words from the previous life to her word for word. Please don't harass my husband. Keep your distance from a married person. Gushi was stunned for a moment, said nothing, and hung up the phone. I stared blankly at the computer for a while. Even though I was reborn, I still couldn't face Gushi's provocation. The crack in my heart started to hurt again. It turned out that even after being reborn, a person can still remember the pain of the previous life clearly. When I was in the most pain, Chu Yan called me. Gushi said that you misunderstood her just now and even scolded her. I nodded and admitted it. Waiting for Chu Yan to lose his temper. In my previous life, when I was provoked by her and scolded her severely, Chu Yan flew into a rage and said that I was ignorant and vulgar. But now Chu Yan was smiling. Fanner, you still care about me, don't you? He smiled happily. You didn't refute, which means you admit it. Fanner, I'll take you to dinner tonight at your favorite restaurant. Okay, I nodded. Okay. During this period, the company was almost in order. I found some reliable people through my parents, and Chu Tian also lent me several top executives with extremely strong abilities. Now that the company was sorted out, it was time to clarify some things. When it was time to get off work, I packed my things and prepared to go to the restaurant that Chu Yan had reserved. Chu Tian suddenly came upstairs. Seeing me applying lipstick, he said, "Chu Yan is downstairs, holding a big bunch of roses. And he even changed his car to a sports car." I know. I closed the lipstick. I'm having dinner with him tonight. Chu Tian lowered his head, hiding his expression. Have you made up? No, I'm going to talk about some things. I picked up my bag. Shall we go downstairs together? Chu Tian shook his head, with his hands in his pockets. His eyes were unfathomable. Sister, do you still have feelings for Chu Yan? Why? Do you want to do a relationship consultation? I asked with a smile. Chu Tian also smiled, with an ambiguous smile. If one day I become an enemy of Chu Yan, will you hold it against me? I actually guessed something. Chu Tian's layout in the capital market always revolves around the Chu family, and when he talks about the Chu family, he has become more and more indifferent, without any attachment, and his indifference is undisguised. A wolf will hunt sooner or later. I raised my index finger to my lips. Don't tell anyone else about this. I'll pretend I didn't hear it. The moment I turned around, Chu Tian's voice, which was barely audible, reached my ears. You'll never imagine why I'm dealing with him. I have good hearing, and I heard it. I turned my head in confusion. Why? Chu Tian smiled at me. If I say it's because of my nightmare, will you believe me? It was an absurd excuse, but I still nodded. I believe you, because in his eyes, besides my reflection, there was also a look of full bewilderment and unease. It must have been a really terrifying dream. When I got downstairs, Chu Yan was leaning against the sports car, holding a huge bunch of roses, which attracted the attention of passers-by. They all looked at me with envy, but I just thought it was unnecessary. When he was chasing me before, he was also sincere, passionate, and poured out his heart. Everyone said that I would be very happy, and I also thought so, but later he cheated on me, and I died. The past emotions turned into smoke and dissipated. I took the flowers and threw them into the car. There's no need to spend so much, I just want to talk about something. He put his arm around my shoulder, but I dodged and got into the car. I saw a look of disappointment on Chu Yan's face, but I just pretended not to see it. In the restaurant, Chu Yan ordered a table full of dishes that I liked. I fell silent. In my previous life, when I wanted to win him back, I invited him to have dinner here, in the same position, at that time, without realizing it. He ordered a table full of dishes that Gushi liked. My heart ached as if being wrung. I quarreled with him, but he didn't admit it. He forgot that Gushi and I were university classmates. I even knew better than Chu Yan what she liked to eat during those 4 years. After that unhappy ending, Gushi got pregnant. Now I was sitting in a familiar place, looking at the table full of food that catered to my appetite, but I couldn't eat it. There was a faint pain in my heart. I knew that it was the silly girl from my previous life crying in my heart. Chu Yan sighed with emotion. It seems like we haven't gone out together for a long time. I nodded. Since you met Gushi. A trace of embarrassment flashed across Chu Yan's face. I really have nothing with her. At first, I had some admiration for her, but later it was all to make you care about me. He reached out his hand and covered mine. His palm was warm, just like before. Unfortunately, I was no longer the person I used to be. I pulled my hand back and lowered my head with a sigh. It would have been so much better if you had said this in my previous life. What? Chu Yan asked me in confusion. I sat up straight. It's nothing. I actually wanted to talk to you about something today. I also have something to say, Chu Yan said. Fanner, I want to court you again. Take you on a second honeymoon and find the feeling we had before. I interrupted him. But I want a divorce. Chu Yan was stunned for a moment, as if he didn't understand. He even smiled and asked me, what did you say? I leaned forward. I said, I want a divorce. Chu Yan, I want to divorce you. 6. Chu Yan leaned back, as if trying to escape. I leaned forward again. Chu Yan, there's no need for us to continue. I've drawn up the divorce agreement. If you need the people you placed in my company back, I can return them all. Frowning, Chu Yan took out a cigarette, lit it, and took a deep puff. Then he remembered that smoking was prohibited in the restaurant and extinguished it. He took a deep breath and furrowed his brows slightly. Why? Is it because of Gushi? I hesitated for a moment. It wasn't unreasonable to say so. After all, in my previous life, it was Gushi's pregnancy that led to my divorce and car accident. Seeing me hesitate, Chu Yan slapped the table heavily and growled, I really haven't touched her. I just wanted you to make a scene. I was really confused, but didn't you dislike it when I made a scene? Was he schizophrenic in my previous life, or has he changed in this life? I don't like it when you're hysterical, but you can't be completely indifferent either. Chu Yan seemed very hurt. I was taken aback. After thinking about it, I suddenly figured something out. No, it's not because of Gushi. From the beginning to the end, it's because of you, Chu Yan. It's just because of you. I took out the divorce agreement from my bag. It was no different from the one in my previous life and handed it to Chu Yan. Take a look. I've considered the interests of both parties. If you have any objections, we can still discuss them. This was also the words he said to me in my previous life. Chu Yan took the divorce agreement, glanced at it roughly, and then sneered. It seems that you've been planning this for a long time and have thought it through very carefully. I closed my eyes. If this divorce agreement was the result of long-term planning, then it was also his long-term planning in my previous life. He looked at me with a mocking smile on his lips. I don't know why you want a divorce, but Luo Fan, it's impossible. He slowly tore the agreement into pieces, tore them so that they couldn't be put back together, and scattered them on the table. He smiled at me. It's impossible, Luo Fan. We promised each other before getting married that we would never mention divorce. Have you forgotten? You were the one who forgot first. I also turned cold and stood up. Even if the agreement is torn up, it can be written again. Chu Yan, it's useless. Chu Yan stood up. Let's go. We're going home. He didn't mention the agreement at all, as if it hadn't happened. All the way home, he kept finding topics that he thought I would be interested in, such as luxury goods, clothes, bags, jewelry, and fashion shows, but now I'm only interested in my company. And I don't know much about the things he's talking about. We talked at cross purposes all the way until we got home. Chu Yan watched me go into the guest room to sleep. He didn't say anything, just let out an almost imperceptible sigh. I hope your cold gets better soon. Since that day, Chu Yan started to change. He came home on time at 8 o'clock every day and would always bring a gift when he came home. Sometimes it was a limited edition bag, sometimes it was high-end customized jewelry, and sometimes it was flowers air-freighted from Europe. Whenever I worked overtime, he would sit quietly at home and wait for me. The moment I got home, he would hand me the gift. If I didn't accept it, he would force it into my hands. He smiled bitterly. I didn't know it was so painful to wait for someone to come home. I'll go to fewer unnecessary social events in the future. It must have been really for you when you were waiting for me, right? I lowered my head. There was a period of time when I couldn't sleep all night, and it was really tormenting. Chu Yan asked me, which period of time? I raised a smile at him. It was something that happened in my previous life. Chu Yan thought I was joking and handed me the gift. With a humble plea in his eyes, Fanner, when will your cold get better? I put the gift on the sofa and looked at him sincerely. It won't get better in this life. Chu Yan's eyes dimmed, but he forced a smile. I don't believe it. I'll wait for you. I didn't say anything and went into the guest room. After a few days, Chu Yan told me that there was an important cocktail party and he needed to bring a partner. He wanted me to cooperate. I wanted him to take Gushi. But Chu Yan said with a serious face that everyone else was bringing their wives, and it wouldn't be appropriate for him to bring a secretary. Now that I'm in charge of the company myself, I know the importance of connections. I also wanted to go to the cocktail party to make connections, so I nodded and agreed. On the night of the cocktail party, I attended with Chu Yan. Chu Yan looked at me with a mesmerized gaze. You're really beautiful, I smiled, neither confirming nor denying. Once upon a time, I devoted all my time to beauty maintenance, makeup, and dressing up, but Chu Yan treated it like something worthless. Tonight, I'm just wearing a formal dress and have on a light makeup. Compared to my previous life, it's not delicate at all, but he is obsessed. People are truly strange and bewildering creatures. Chu Tian was also at the dinner party. He raised his glass to me. His eyes seemed unfathomable, and it was hard to see his emotions. But he didn't bring a female companion. I suspected that Chu Yan had lied to me. In fact, there was no rule that one had to bring a partner, because even Gushi came, and she also came alone. Seeing Chu Yan with his arm around me, Gushi's eyes dimmed for a moment, and then she smiled and came over to greet us. Mr. Chu, your wife looks very beautiful tonight. She bit her lip, looking pitiful, and added a touch of just the right amount of forbearance. Chu Yan glanced at her and quickly looked away, nodding. Yes, she is beautiful. Gushi reluctantly pulled the corners of her mouth into a smile, and her smile was dim. Congratulations, Mr. Chu and Mrs. Chu, on making up. She looked at me. Mr. Chu would come to my place whenever he got drunk before and talked to me about you until late at night. We didn't make up, I interrupted her. Gushi was stunned, and a glimmer of light flashed in her eyes. I smiled and repeated, we didn't make up. I'm here purely for business purposes. You can rest assured. I thought Gushi would be overjoyed, but instead, she was regretful and angry. Mrs. Chu, isn't it too cruel of you to treat Mr. Chu like this? I can't bear to see it. Mr. Chu loves you so much, but you discard his love like trash. Have you considered Mr. Chu's dignity as a man? She spoke with righteous indignation, which made me laugh. I shrugged. You can consider it, can't you? Why do I need to? You don't know how to cherish it all. Gushi was angry. So many people are in love with Mr. Chu, but you don't take him seriously. You don't know how lucky you are. I turned to ask Chu Yan, does your secretary have the right to talk to me like this? Gushi also looked at him, her eyes full of pity and affection. I felt that if I were a man, I wouldn't be able to resist this. Gushi should be an actress, but Chu Yan's face turned cold, and he scolded her. Why are you butting in on my family affairs? Know your place and don't meddle in things you shouldn't. Gushi and I were both stunned at the same time. Chu Yan looked at me again. If you don't like her, I can make her leave the company or even leave this city. She will never bother you again. His eyes when looking at me were full of attachment, while his eyes when looking at Gushi were full of impatience. I should be happy, because this could be seen as a symbol of me completely turning the tables and defeating my rival in love after being reborn. Right, but I couldn't be happy. I just felt bored. This was exactly the same as in my previous life, except that Gushi and I had switched positions. It made no difference whether the person he was tired of was me or Gushi. I couldn't be happy. I increasingly remembered the bitterness of being rejected in my previous life. Gushi ran away crying. Chu Yan grabbed my arm tightly. Fanner, like this, will your cold get better? I lowered my eyes. How could it get better? It was impossible in this lifetime. Some things couldn't be undone, like a life. I shook my head. It won't get better. It will never get better. Chu Yan, give up the illusion. Let's get a divorce. Chu Yan was stunned for a moment, and his face gradually darkened. He pulled me to the corner. Luo Fan, I treated Gushi like this. Don't you believe me? What on earth do you want me to do? I pushed Chu Yan away. The old wounds accumulated to this moment, and the pain began to burst out. I don't want you to do anything, just get a divorce. It has nothing to do with me what happens between you and Gushi. I just want to leave you. Do you understand? Chu Yan pulled me back, gritted his teeth, and said word by word, you're dreaming. He suddenly lowered his head and kissed my lips, mumbling and declaring to me, Luo Fan, you'll never be able to get a divorce in this lifetime. 7. I felt a wave of nausea. These lips had also kissed Gushi, even in my previous life. I couldn't forgive that. I was just so petty. Without thinking, I raised my hand and slapped Chu Yan hard on the face. The sound was clear and loud, and Chu Yan's face immediately turned red and swollen. I wiped my lips vigorously, wishing I could scrub off a layer of skin. Stay the hell away from me. Chu Yan's face turned pale and then green. In the end, his eyes looking at me were cold and indifferent. He sneered, Luo Fan, you're really something. No one has ever hit me before. He stepped back one step at a time, his eyes fixed on me. You said you don't want me, right? I'll show you that as long as I want. There are plenty of people who would climb into my bed. After saying that, he turned around and strode towards Gushi in the distance. He pulled her into his arms and walked out of the banquet hall. I squatted down, and tears fell inexplicably. I didn't know why I was crying. But the tears just came without any warning. I guessed that it was the silly girl from my previous life who was crying. Some people had already noticed me. After all, I was the only one squatting in the cocktail party. People were whispering. Some came up to ask with concern, but I turned a deaf ear. I just wanted to cry my heart out. Chu Tian pushed through the crowd and came in front of me. He reached out his hand to me. Sister, I'll take you home. I looked up with teary eyes and saw his handsome face, which was filled with hostility, exactly the same as in my previous life. The memories of my previous life and this life overlapped, and I couldn't stop crying. I grabbed his hand and stood up, and he pulled me into his arms. His voice was cold, as if suppressing his anger. Don't worry, even if I have to bring down the Chu family, I will avenge you. My body trembled. Was it a coincidence? Why were the words he said exactly the same as in my previous life? I wanted to ask him, but I was crying so hard that I couldn't open my mouth. I could only let him take me home. He used a wet wipe to gently wipe off my smudged makeup and the tears all over my face. He held me in his arms and coaxed me like a child. Sister, don't cry. I'll vent your anger and avenge you. Don't cry. Be good. I was exhausted. The memories of the 2 lives were too heavy. I nestled in his arms and cried until I fell asleep. In a daze, I felt him pick me up, carry me back to the guest room, cover me with the quilt, and lock the door. I didn't sleep soundly. In the middle of the night, I was even awakened by a knock on the door. Chu Yan came to knock on my door again. He was as drunk as a madman and was shouting at the door. Open the door, Luo Fan, open the door for me. I'm your husband, and I want to come in, he shouted hoarsely. I just can't do anything to Gushi. You're all I can think about. You don't want me anymore. Open the door for me, Luo Fan. I won't allow you to leave me. My tears fell again. The memories of lying alone in the hospital waiting to die came crashing in overwhelmingly and couldn't be suppressed. I suddenly opened the door and slapped Chu Yan in the face. Chu Yan was stunned. Before he could come to his senses, I slapped him again. I was in tears. Chu Yan, I lost my life for you, a life. Can you ever make up for that? I sobbed uncontrollably. When I was waiting to die in that cold hospital, you were getting married to Gushi. I called you just begging you to change your mind, but you didn't even answer the phone. You cut off my last hope. I didn't die in a car accident. I died at your hands. Chu Yan stood there like a wooden chicken. He opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. I squatted down and covered my face. Once you do something, the ending is already determined, and no one can change it. Chu Yan, it's not that I want to leave you. It's you who pushed me away with your own hands, pushed me into the abyss. I got reborn once. Please let me go. Okay, Chu Yan wanted to come up and help me up. Fanner, I understand, you have a mental problem, right? Are you so afraid that something will happen between me and Gushi that you're having hallucinations? It's okay, Fanner, tomorrow I'll arrange for a doctor, and we'll go see him, everything will be fine after that. Before he could finish his words, he suddenly collapsed in front of me. Chu Tian stood behind him, clapped his hands, and said expressionlessly, he talks too much. I let him sleep for a while. I nervously reached out my hand to feel Chu Yan's breath and let out a sigh of relief. He was still alive. Chu Tian kicked Chu Yan to the side and slowly squatted down beside me. I noticed that he was shaking, very violently, his hands were trembling, and he held me tightly without letting go. He didn't even want me to go back to bed to sleep, he just sat on the ground, holding me tightly in his arms, not saying a word, as if he had just survived a disaster and was still in shock. I asked him to let me go several times, but he seemed not to hear me and just kept holding me. Until early in the morning, I couldn't hold on anymore and fell asleep. Before I fell asleep, I heard his hoarse voice, that dream, it's real. I slept in Chu Tian's arms for 2 hours and then couldn't fall asleep anymore. When I woke up, the pent-up anger in my heart seemed to have dissipated, and I could no longer feel the silly girl from my previous life crying. Maybe she had finally let go and decided to disappear from this world. After she disappeared, it was time for me to leave too. I looked at Chu Tian, he still hadn't slept, his originally clear eyes were now full of bloodshot. When he saw me open my eyes, he hugged me tightly, as if afraid that I would disappear too. I smiled weakly at him. Can you help me move? Chu Tian nodded and stood up. We stepped over Chu Yan, who was still unconscious in the corridor, and started packing my luggage. In less than half an hour, I moved back to my parents' empty house. Before leaving, I looked at the Chu family house that had been cleaned up and no longer had any marks of my existence. I smiled bitterly, turned around, and walked out towards the rising sun. Every day from now on would be brand new. 8. After I moved out, Chu Yan fired Gushi immediately, then he came to pester me, beg me, and try to persuade me, but he didn't dare to go too far. He always thought that I had a mental illness and that provoking me would make me relapse. He would comply with everything except the divorce. As soon as I got excited, he would leave immediately. Later, he didn't have much time to focus on matters of the heart. Chu Tian started his revenge on the Chu family, having planned for a long time. With his preparedness against the Chu family's lack of vigilance, Chu Yan was in a complete mess. No one expected that the once neglected child of the Chu family would one day grow into a wolf and, for no apparent reason, turn back to devour his own family. This revenge lasted for a year. Chu Tian became a new upstart in the business world, while the Chu family was severely damaged and never returned to its former glory. It was I who asked Chu Tian to stop. It wasn't out of sympathy for Chu Yan, but because Chu Tian made me worried. Since the night he held me, the hostility in his eyes had never disappeared. Instead, it had become stronger and stronger. Sometimes he would fall silent without any warning, and then he would hug me tightly, forcing me to swear that I would live well. I thought it wasn't me who had a mental problem, but him. I forced him to stop straining himself and take a rest for a while. Chu Tian didn't agree, so I got angry. He was especially afraid of making me angry. He always thought that if I got angry, I would do something stupid that couldn't be undone. I was so angry that I even laughed. I didn't know where he got that illusion from. Anyway, Chu Tian agreed to stop and rest. Chu Yan finally managed to catch his breath and came to find me. He was no longer as dashing as before, his handsome face was unshaven, and he looked extremely haggard. He never used to drink during the day, but now, even in the afternoon, there was a faint smell of alcohol on him. He smiled bitterly. After you left, I've been in pain every day. I've been suffering from insomnia for a long time. He sat on the chair, with dark circles under his eyes, looking as if he hadn't slept for a long time. He pleaded with me, Fanner, let me sleep here for a while. Okay. After you left, I realized that I can only sleep well when I'm in a place with you. I sighed but didn't say anything. Chu Yan fell asleep quickly, but he didn't sleep soundly. He seemed to be having a dream. His eyes were constantly moving under his eyelids, and his eyebrows were furrowed tightly. After a while, he became restless and started talking in his sleep. No. Stop it, Fanner, stop. He even shouted, Luo Fan, hold on. Cooperate with the doctor, wait for me to save you. After shouting for I don't know how long, he started sobbing. A man who had never shed tears before began to cry softly. From soft sobs, it turned into heart-wrenching cries. I seemed to be infected by his emotions too. Scenes from my previous life flashed uncontrollably in my mind, from the moment we met and fell in love to the time of his betrayal and my death. My tears fell one after another, and I choked up and couldn't speak. That silly girl, how is she now? Has she entered eternal sleep? It seemed like a very long time passed. Chu Yen woke up from his dream with red eyes and tears still on his face. He suddenly jumped up and rushed over to look at me. He examined me carefully, tremblingly reached out his hand, and stroked my face. "Fanner, you're still alive, that's great." His eyes were red-rimmed. "I had a dream. In the dream, I did something stupid that made you leave." His voice was hoarse, and tears rolled down his face. "That dream was so terrifying. After you left, I realized how stupid I was. I was in so much pain that I tried to call back your soul. I searched all over the world for a master, but I couldn't bring you back. A master said that you went back in time. How could that be possible? How could a person?" Chu Yen suddenly stopped. He looked at me in disbelief, and asked tremblingly and hesitantly, "I remember that before you moved out. You said you lost your life for me, Fanner, right?" He grabbed my hand. "Fanner, did you say that at that time, or did I remember it wrong when I was drunk? You said that you were reborn once, didn't you?" I had known Chu Yen for so many years in these 2 lifetimes, and I had never seen him so cautious. He spoke every word as if walking on thin ice. I even thought that if it were the silly girl from my previous life, would she forget this haggard man in front of her? Unfortunately, I wasn't her. I smiled at him with red eyes. "What do you think?" Chu Yen shook his head. He tried to smile but couldn't. "I think it's not scientific. Fanner, tell me, this is all fake. You didn't die once, did you? I didn't make you wait to die all alone, did I?" I wiped away my tears. I neither nodded nor shook my head. "I can't say. What has been done has been done. The wounds that have been suffered are real. The life that has been lost is gone. I can't deny it, and I won't deny it." Chu Yen suddenly stood up, staggering backward and kept shaking his head. "It's not true. This is not scientific. It's just a dream." He forced a smile. "Fanner, did your mental illness infect me?" I gently told him. "Mental illness is not contagious." I took out the divorce agreement. "Chu Yen, I died for you once. Isn't one life enough for you to let me go? Divorce is the only way for us." Chu Yen frantically denied it. "No, it's impossible. You really infected me with your mental illness. I don't believe it." He stumbled and fled, as if there were ghosts chasing after him. 9. For 3 days, Chu Yen disappeared completely for 3 days. The entire Chu family went out to look for him, but they couldn't find him. 3 days later, Chu Yen appeared in my office. His clothes were wrinkled, and he looked so haggard that he was almost unrecognizable. His voice was extremely hoarse. "I had a dream for 3 days. I dreamed of both my previous life and this life." His eyes were filled with tears. "I believe it, Fanner." Chu Yen reached out his hand to me. "Give me the divorce agreement. I'll sign it." "Fanner, I have no face to win you back." I took out the divorce agreement and gave it to him. He signed his name without even looking at it. When he left, tears rolled down his face. "I, Chu Yen, will never marry for the rest of my life and will never touch any other woman. Fanner, this is my atonement for you." Looking at his haggard back, my heart ached, but at the same time, I felt a sense of relief. The marriage that spanned 2 lifetimes finally came to an end. I closed my eyes wearily, but for some reason, I fell into a dream in a daze. Maybe I was just too tired. I fell into the same dream as Chu Yen. Scenes from my previous life flashed before my eyes, all the way until I was waiting to die in the hospital and Chu Tian came to see me off for the last time. I thought my dream was about to end. After all, my life had ended too. But no, the dream continued. I saw Chu Tian crying while holding my cold body, and the hostility in his eyes grew stronger and stronger. His cold fingertips wiped the blood off my face, and he gently whispered in my ear, "Sister, when I come back after taking revenge, I'll tell you a secret." Tears fell on my face, feeling cold. Later, Chu Tian launched a crazy revenge on the Chu family, bringing down a big family until it was worthless. I don't know how many people committed suicide or were imprisoned, but Chu Yen, the head of the Chu family, didn't care at all. Even when the Chu family collapsed and even when Gushi was so stimulated that she had a miscarriage, everyone said that Chu Yen had gone crazy. He went around looking for people who could communicate with the spirit world and begged people all over the world to call back my soul. He went to all the places in the country, then packed his bags and went to Nepal, India, Thailand, Mexico, and all the places he could go. When the Chu family collapsed and he had no money left, he could only earn money by working part-time to look for me. He searched for 5 years. In the 5th year, someone told him that I had gone back in time. He then started looking for a way to go back in time. Another 5 years passed. He had aged prematurely and had a head full of white hair. Chu Tian appeared in front of him and told him coldly, "Even if you find her, will she still want to see you? You were the one who killed her. Would you forgive the person who killed you?" Chu Yan was stunned. He sat there blankly for a whole night and gave up looking for me the next day. He became an alcoholic, drinking day and night, and was plagued by diseases. When he was sent to the hospital, he gave up treatment and cut off his own chance of survival. And Chu Tian, he buried me in a sea of flowers. No matter how busy he was every day, he would go to the sea of flowers to visit me. He also drank alcohol. When he was drunk, he would look at my tombstone and cry, "Sister, do you know why I spared Chu Yan's life? Because I also wanted to find you. I tried every means but failed, so I could only place my hope in Chu Yan. At least Chu Yan didn't forget you just like me. With one more person in the world thinking of you, maybe you would come back." He would talk to himself in front of my tombstone. "Sister, when everyone looked down on me, only you would smile at me, care if I had a fever or was hungry, secretly give me gifts, and feed me medicine." He said, "Sister, I said I would tell you a secret. The secret is that from the first time you smiled at me, I fell in love with you. No one has a more beautiful smile than you. I secretly planted this sea of flowers. I thought that when it became the most beautiful, I would also become powerful. I would snatch you over and propose to you here. But sister, I didn't wait until that day." Just like that, he stayed in front of my tombstone for his whole life and never married. 10. When I woke up from the dream, I was exhausted all over and had tears streaming down my face. I remembered him gently saying in my ear, "Don't worry. Even if I have to bring down the Chu family, I will avenge you." Chu Tian hesitated for a moment. "I'm in a garden." I had never heard that Chu Tian had been to any garden, but suddenly, as if struck by inspiration, I thought of the sea of flowers in my dream. I drove straight there. Sure enough, among the pink peach blossoms and pale yellow flowers, I saw his thin and tall figure. His eyes were misty, as if he had just woken up from a dream. He didn't even have time to be surprised when he saw me. He reached out his hand to me. "Sister, I just dreamed of you again." He was still in a state of shock and not fully awake. "In the dream, I stayed by your side here for my whole life. I don't want to have this dream anymore." I placed my hand in his palm and let him hold it. Tears welled up in my eyes involuntarily. "Did you plant this sea of flowers?" His ears turned slightly red, and he nodded. "What did you plant it for?" "For the person I like to see." "Did the person you like see it?" Chu Tian looked at me deeply, gently pulled me, and drew me into his arms. "She saw it. She is right by my side." There was a determined look in his eyes, but also a trace of uneasiness. "But I don't know if she likes me." "I do." I nodded vigorously. "I do like you." I looked at his handsome face. There was an expression of disbelief and joy in his eyes, and even the arm around me was careful, afraid of hurting me. It was this cautious man who became filled with hostility for me and brought down his own family to avenge me. For 2 lifetimes in a row, how could I not like him? "Chu Tian, I divorced Chu Yan." I leaned against his chest and said softly. I heard his heartbeat speed up, and his arm tightened, pulling me completely into his embrace. "Sister, can I?" "You can." I nodded firmly. The next second, he lowered his head and kissed my lips. Surrounded by the fragrance of flowers and in the midst of the beautiful colors, we kissed passionately. The previous life finally passed completely. Story 2. I instinctively stepped in front of her as I watched Lu Zhao move. I smiled at them, even though my eyelashes trembled. "Really, if you think I'm a bully, then call the police. Let the police handle it." "Okay." I walked past them. Jiang Shuhui suddenly grabbed my wrist. I heard him say, "Apologize to your sister." Lu Zhao stepped in front of me, lowered his head, and advised, "Lin Xia, I don't want you to become so vindictive. Why is everyone scolding me when I haven't done anything wrong?" I glanced sideways. Lin Qi's eyes were red. She clearly knew that the person bullying her wasn't me, but she just wouldn't say it. I pulled my wrist away and brushed past the two of them. "Sorry, but I'm really busy. I have a speech to give. I need to come in first. I don't have time for this." "At a time like this, you still feel like participating in your speech," Lu Zhao said from behind me, but I ignored him. I didn't look back and stepped onto the podium. Even though there was nothing behind me, I still moved forward. The speech went very smoothly. There was continuous applause as I took my bow, and I smiled in thanks, but my thoughts were elsewhere. I looked below the stage. Lin Chi in a white dress was being led away by Jiang Shuhui, with Lu Zhao trailing behind, reluctantly tugging at her ponytail. But why is the spotlight on me? I didn't falter, I didn't embarrass myself. My mood, however, was still overwhelmed by a torrential sense of loss. A few days later, Jiang Shuhui suddenly came looking for me. Honestly, I didn't have much time for romantic issues. Without Jiang Shuhui, there could be another man to take his place. But as I stared at the text message screen, I suddenly realized that I was still somewhat unable to let him go. Yes, he was the only one I had been involved with, initially for my own sake, but later, I did start to like him. I harbored that little bit of hope, hoping he would look back at me, or realize that it was impossible for me to bully my own sister, yet he dragged me to a secluded gym. Then he gripped my wrist tightly and said, "Lin Xia, can't you stop tormenting your sister? Why are you spreading rumors that your sister is the homewrecker in our relationship? We've already broken up. Can you have some shame, Lin Xia?" I blinked, almost laughed out of anger. That little bit of affection for him disappeared in an instant. "No, Jiang Shuhui, who told you I was spreading rumors?" he scoffed. "Who else if not you? Your sister is so kind, always praising you in front of me. Can you stop projecting your pettiness onto her?" I was furious. "You two are always together. Who wouldn't think something's off? Why blame me?" He sneered coldly at me, "Showing your true colors, Lin Xia. I'll tell you, your sister is much more innocent and kind than you. I won't let you hurt her. In this lifetime, never again." What? I wanted to yell back, but was met instead by the sound of a door slamming shut. When I tried to pull the door open again, I suddenly realized I couldn't. What, had he locked me in here? This was the first time I felt like I was about to lose my cool. I yanked at the door violently, creating a loud noise. "Hey Jiang Shuhui, come back here. How can you say that about me, you jerk? Are you out of your mind?" Since there was no one around, I cursed freely and felt quite relieved. I kicked furiously at the door, which was locked. This gym was particularly isolated. Usually, no one passed by here. Having played the role of the nice girl for too long, this was a perfect moment to vent. By the time I was exhausted from kicking and felt a sourness in my nose, a soft chuckle suddenly came from beside me. "Lin Xia, so this is the kind of woman you are." 14. I slowly turned my head. A young man I didn't recognize was sitting on an abandoned mat in the gym. He was swinging his legs as he watched me. He must have been sleeping there just before, which is why both Jiang Shuhui and I hadn't noticed someone else was here. Seeing him, my first thought was about how many piercings this guy had: eyebrow piercing, lip piercing, ear piercings. I despised anything that challenged my traditional views, yet, he was strikingly handsome in a bold and unrestrained way. I paused, my ability to switch expressions lagging a bit. Do we know each other?" He smiled, a genuinely innocent smile. "Changing faces. Weren't you just banging on the door a second ago? How did you turn into a lady so quickly?" I ignored his teasing. Smiling, I asked him, "Classmate, do you know if there's another door out of this gym?" He shook his head. "Just that one, locked by your dear boyfriend." I nodded and used my phone to contact a friend to rescue me. He hopped off the mat, hands in his pockets, and sauntered over to me, laughing beside my ear. He said, "Lin Xia, you really don't recognize me?" I turned to look at him. Yeah, he had the kind of face that looked like he'd have lots of girlfriends. I wouldn't go for such a guy. He completely didn't fit the criteria I had for a future partner. "I don't recognize you." He raised his eyebrows. "We've exchanged contact information before." "That's impossible." Skeptical, I took out my phone and let him input his number. He bent over, entered his mobile number, and sure enough, his contact came up. The note read, 188 Rich doesn't care about me. He fell silent for a moment, then chuckled tightly by my ear. Suddenly, I remembered. I had indeed categorized the men in my contacts while searching for a suitable boyfriend in the past. "Lin Xia, how can you not remember your own fish?" Really hitting where it hurt, I re-evaluated him. I have a good memory. I hadn't forgotten him. His name was Pei Chen, but the Pei Chen in my memory was drastically different from the one in front of me now. I met him at a cocktail party I attended with my father. If the Jiang family's enterprises cover half the city, then the Pei family really permeates every aspect of the entire city as a major influential clan. Even my father tries to curry favor with them. The reason I didn't recognize him at first was because I clearly remembered him. At the party, He was dressed in a black suit, exuding an icy, unapproachable aura. He ignored me on WeChat, very aloof. I tried to ask him out several times, but was consistently rejected. Since our chance meeting at the gym, Pei-chan started to seek me out frequently. Consequently, I changed his contact name from Tall, Rich, Doesn't Care About Me to Tall, Rich, Crazy. These are things I would never tell him. His family's wealth means connections for me, and his interest in me suits my intentions perfectly. As for romantic feelings, I've come to a clear realization: men are no good. Jiang Shuhui and I are done. Though it seems he hasn't gotten together with Lin Qi either. Sometimes at school, I see him waiting outside the classroom for Lin Qi. Looks like he's still pursuing her. I don't have time to worry about these things. My dad has started handing over company matters to me, so I'm even busier. Actually, I know he was originally planning to tutor Lin Qi, but honestly, she's not very bright. I thought I had finally outshined Lin Qi. I thought I had proven myself to him, that I could win back my dad's attention. But that afternoon, my dad sat at the head of the table and poured me a cup of tea, saying word by word, "Xia xia, study hard. In the future, you will assist your sister. I've been working so hard. I study from dawn till dusk. I have no time for fun. I desperately seek others' approval. And what do I get? My dad just wants me to learn all this, only to pave the way for my sister who only knows about love and romance." That afternoon, I had a huge fight with my dad. He smashed the inkstone and pointed at me, too angry to speak. Do you know, actually you, at that moment, I felt like my dad was about to reveal something he'd kept from me for a long time. But then, a blur of white burst in. Enough, Dad, don't say any more. Lin Qi stepped in front of my dad. Her eyes were red, her lips quivering. Sister, please don't blame Dad, okay? It's all my fault. If it weren't for me, things wouldn't have turned out this way. I'm just a disaster. She began to sob, and I couldn't understand why she was crying when I hadn't shed a tear. I laughed, moved closer to her, and said word by word, "Yes, you are a disaster." She shuddered like a frightened rabbit. My dad had already lifted a dictionary to throw at me, and this time, I couldn't dodge it. The sharp pain in my forehead nearly overwhelmed me, but I held back my tears. I wanted to laugh, but I couldn't anymore. I turned and walked out the door. My dad's angry shouts behind me. He told me to get out and never come back to this house. Lin Qi, it's strange, isn't it? It's as if an invisible hand is manipulating everything. In competitions, I can no longer take first place. That spot belongs to my sister. It's not that I'm less capable than she is. Rather, it's because our mentor saw her efforts and was moved by her, saying that she was touched by my sister's dedication. My sister always makes an effort to befriend those who are close to me, claiming she wants to be closer to her big sister. Then, after some time, I don't know why, but those friends start to distance themselves from me. Lately, rumors have been swirling around the school. They say I'm a bully. They call me a malicious and hypocritical woman. They say I was bullied before and now I'm bullying my own sister. Some photos from when I was bullied have leaked. They cut through my wounds like a knife. Those photos. Only Lu Zhao has them. I confronted him, asking why he would do such a thing. Spreading rumors is bad enough, but why post photos of me being hurt on the school forum? He said that I deserved it. After all, I was the one who bullied my sister. What's the point of hanging yourself upside down like this? Pei-chan tilted his head, standing in front of me. I was indeed hanging upside down from the bar in the deserted gymnasium. Of course, it was to prevent myself from crying, but I forgot. Pei-chan also often comes here to sleep. Over the many days we've spent together, Pei-chan and I have grown familiar. I know he seems aloof, but in reality, he's a bit silly. I know he's lonely too, which is why he always seeks me out. No one else plays with him because they say he's bad luck. Pei-chan, I recently read a novel. It's about a fake heiress who rules over the household until the real heiress returns. I feel like I'm that fake heiress. I'm the villain who usurps someone else's place, the malicious cannon fodder, the secondary character who ends up being abandoned and humiliated. He looked down at me, then smiled. Really, there's no secondary character as adorable as you. He smiled and helped me down from the bar. Come down. If you keep hanging like that, you'll get a rush of blood to the head. Are you a little bat? The rain continued to pour outside the window. Suddenly, I asked him, do you also think I'm a bully? He blinked, looked down, and pulled out a necklace he always wore around his neck. It was an old, copper Star of David necklace. Given his status, it seemed unlikely he'd wear such a simple necklace. This was given to me by a little girl back when I was in the orphanage. The Star of David necklace glowed dimly in the light of the evening sun. That little girl, she was my hope to keep living. She told me that it is the cracks in life that let the light in. Lin Hua, you can also be a gentle and kind person. A strong and relentless protagonist. A heroine whose life comes full circle. The path you choose is up to you, isn't it? Yes, so what if fate plays with me? What does it matter if the whole world isn't on my side? Even in death, I shall die beautifully. That's how I continue to live. Even if my bones are shattered, I will stand up. Even if I am not happy, I will put on a show of happiness for others to see. I thought that as long as I was stubborn and refused to give in, fate would eventually take my side. Unfortunately, I was wrong. After spending a lot of time together, Pei Chen would occasionally hear about Lin Chi from me. He had never met Lin Chi, and she did not know I knew him, so she hadn't connected with him. Actually, I'm a bit curious about what your little White Lotus sister is really like, Pei Chen said one day, chewing on his straw. Little White Lotus was the nickname he had given my sister. I could tell from his tone that he didn't like her, but I still frowned subconsciously. Don't go looking for her, she has something evil about her, something very sinister. I don't know what came over me. I actually didn't believe that Pei Chen would be swayed by Lin Chi. He was different from others, he was mentally ill, and the thoughts of the mentally ill are unpredictable, but I was still uneasy. What, are you afraid I'll be taken away by her? Pei Chen was energized, teasing me, and truthfully, I was afraid. Pei Chen was the only one who stood by my side. Even though he was ill, really, how could I possibly leave you? Pei Chen smiled easily, just as a delicate voice sounded from behind me. Sister, what are you doing here? It was too late. I saw the man sitting across from me, who had just been smiling, freeze in place upon seeing Lin Chi. That was the first time I felt like fate, like a giant hand, was manipulating me. In the orphanage, a little girl had given Pei Chen a necklace, which he had worn ever since. Who was that little girl? My sister looked surprised and smiled at Pei Chen. Chen, brother, what are you doing here? Sunshine Welfare Home, do you remember me? More than just remember, he said. She was his reason to keep living. What did I do that day? I just turned around and walked away. I could imagine what happened next. The two recognized each other, and Pei Chen realized that the light in his life was actually my sister. Then he completely sided with my sister. He would mock me, condemn me. He would say, Lin Hai, you're such a bad woman, only spreading rumors about your sister. I know this scenario all too well. This time, with foresight, I deleted all his contact information first. That way, if he were to delete me later, I could still have the upper hand. But I still couldn't stop my footsteps. I had said that I would live well, that I would show everyone my radiant self. How could I just fall here? The relationship with my father was something I initiated to mend. Right now, my foundations are too weak. I have no power to contend with him, so I made a bet with my father, Lin Chi, and I both participated in a company project bid. If I won, he would let me lead the company's decisions. If I lost, he didn't need me to assist my sister and would just tell me to pack up and leave. He said he no longer recognized me as his daughter. Actually, at this point, I think I now understand the position I hold in my father's eyes, and what he has been keeping from me. But all I could do was smile and take on the project. As graduation approached, it was indeed time for me to consider joining the company. This was the first time I was handling such a big project. Thanks to the experience I had accumulated through practice, I managed to get a good handle on it quickly. I worked on the project proposal until late at night in the office, long after all the other lights in the building had been turned off, and I was still there. And my sister, when she heard about the competition, she was quite confused and said, Sister, I don't want to compete with you. However, I couldn't afford to let my guard down around her. The company calling for bids was Pei Xian Group, a subsidiary of the Pei Chen family's business. This meant that Pei Chen might play a significant role in the outcome of this bidding process. By now, his name was quietly listed in my blacklist. Once again, I revised the proposal until late into the night. I rubbed my temples, not knowing when it started, but rumors had spread within the company that I was an arrogant and domineering heiress. As a result, my subordinates were not very cooperative and even complained about why they weren't assigned to work under Lin Chi. I dabbed some ink, in the deep silence of the night, but feeling powerless and despondent overwhelmed me wave after wave. Why is it that no matter how hard I try, there is always an insurmountable barrier? Why is it that the one who puts in all the effort and suffers is also me? Is there really such a thing as fate? I turned off the computer and walked downstairs. Where a black phaeton was parked at the entrance of the company, I looked up to see Pei Chen, who had removed his earrings and was dressed in a black suit, quietly watching me. I tried to walk past him. He stepped forward and grabbed my wrist. I scoffed and stared at him. What do you want to say to me? Tell me to stop hurting my sister, to withdraw from this competition voluntarily, or to apologize to my kind, innocent sister who doesn't have a single manipulative bone in her body. In the silent breeze, I saw him sigh. He reached out to tidy my messy hair, then bent down and smiled at me. Tell you to get some rest and not stay up late. I was stunned on the spot. He really was crazy, a crazy man who didn't even care about my sister. We leaned against the car together, his head bowed, playing with the coffee cup in his hand. Lin Xia, this bidding was designed entirely for your sister. Although my family is calling for the bids, the partners are Zhang's and Lu's. Jiang Shuhuai and Lu Zhao, your sister could easily get the qualifications for this bid with the help of those two men. From the start of this gamble, you were doomed to lose. No wonder my father wasn't worried about me taking my sister's place at all. No wonder my sister was still busy entangling herself with Jiang Shuhuai and Lu Zhao. It seemed like all the advantages of heaven, earth, and people were on her side, as if all my luck had been drawn away by her. Tonight, there was no moon. I heard Pei Chen softly say, I can help you. It seems there's no mistake. Lin Qi's design draft has already been handed over. I can help you steal it. The rest of his words hung unspoken in the air. If I stole that design draft, I could present it at the bidding session before anyone else, leaving Lin Qi with no way to prove her case. Why are her designs the same as mine? It seems like the only way to beat her. I stared at the man beside me. Why are you helping me? You've worn the necklace she gave you for so long. He paused, then smiled. Oh, that, actually, the days in the orphanage were quite painful. Seeing her face reminds me of those times, and I despise her even more. He really is sick. I didn't respond to him. Two moths circled the only streetlight, fluttering their wings. I heard him whisper softly, I was picked up from the orphanage by my dad, after giving birth to me. My mom left me at the doorstep of that welfare institute. Later, my dad found me and confirmed our blood relation. I'm his only blood-related offspring. He always hoped I would take his place, but I never wanted to be that high-ranking CEO. What do you want to do? I looked up and asked him. In the darkness, there was a spark in Pei Chen's eyes for the first time. I think. He paused, then smiled at me. Never mind, Lin Xia. If one day I really pursue the career of my dreams, I'll tell you. Okay, in the end, I never let Pei Chen help me steal that design draft. I'm not opposed to using ruthless strategies. I simply disdain Lin Qi's designs. Claiming her work as mine is an insult to me. Soon, it was the day of the bidding. I passed by Lin Qi with my makeup impeccably done. She tried to grab my sleeve, timidly calling out to me, Sister, can't we stop this, please? Dad wouldn't want this either. Before, I was the most outstanding girl in everyone's eyes. Now, I'm the bad woman everyone avoids. If this were a novel, it would be nearing its end, right? The kind and innocent female protagonist embarks on a new life, and me, the evil supporting character, about to exit. But in this world, is there really a clear distinction between black and white, right and wrong? I clenched the proposal in my hand, making one last stand against fate, and I was utterly defeated. Indeed, the bid was orchestrated for Lin Qi. Several collaborators at the scene were connected to Jiang Shuhai. Seeing this former boyfriend again felt like a lifetime had passed. After the bidding, in his suit and leather shoes, he cornered me at the staircase, his eyes full of sarcasm. Lin Xia, didn't I tell you, I would make you regret it? Look at you now, utterly defeated. This is the price for bullying your sister. I kept my head down, perhaps thinking I had no fight left. He scoffed, yes, now, I have nothing, deserted by everyone, trampled upon, soon to be driven out of the home that raised me. But just as he was about to leave, I suddenly spoke up. I haven't lost, I won't admit defeat. He shook his head mockingly and walked away, ignoring me. Now, I will no longer pose a threat to his precious Lin Qi. I leaned against the wall, slowly pushing myself up. But then again, that's just the way I am. No matter how many obstacles rise before me, I will keep moving forward, even if it's time to wrap things up and call it a day. I want to leave a lasting impression in the minds of the audience. 21. My dad told me that I'm not his biological daughter. I had suspected as much. life just seems to throw all its melodrama my way. Fate seems determined to make me fall short compared to Lin Chi, but I refuse to accept that. Later, Pei Chen drove me to the airport. I couldn't stay in the country anymore, targeted from all sides. Truly like a dog without a home. Back in school, I met a senior who studied fashion design, who later moved to the UK and started a small design company. Luckily, I had built up some connections, and she said she was willing to take me in. I chose to work in a clothing company because my dad started out by selling clothes. I won't stay abroad like a lost dog forever. I will return, and with what they pride themselves on, I will slap them all fiercely in the face. The moment I boarded the plane, I left my homeland behind, staring at the clouds racing through the sky. I felt truly abandoned by the world. If only life were like a thrilling novel. Just recite 30 years in the East, 30 years in the West, and you'd have the spirit of never underestimate the young and poor. My first year in the UK was tough. The craziest part was being kicked out of my rented room because someone else offered a higher price. The landlord threw out my luggage and belongings in the middle of the night. It was the handiwork of Lu Zhao from back home. He called me, his voice fierce. My sister has been unhappy these days, and I won't let you be happy either. London's damp weather, raining whenever it pleases. The dense, dark clouds seemed like divine wrath. I hid under a bridge, clutching my bag, unable to stop the relentless rain from seeping into my design drafts. Just as I couldn't stop myself from being swallowed by a dark fate alone. Do you still not believe in fate? Pei Chen had said this to me when he saw me off. Do you still not believe in fate? Perhaps you are destined to be shattered to pieces. Maybe all your efforts are in vain, and in the end, you'll be thrown into a dark abyss. Will you still resist? Will you still try, even if it might be futile? I wiped the rain off my cheeks. My fingers trembled as I dialed that number, until I heard his clear, calm voice on the other end. Hello, you finally decided to call me. That's quite heartless of you. He always seemed to care for no one, detached from the world, unpredictable. I gripped the phone tightly and asked him softly, Pei Chen, should we believe in fate? The person on the other end paused for a moment, then replied, I'm still looking for the answer to that question. Later, I found out, the night I called Pei Chen, he had just had a fallout with his family. A brilliant graduate from a prestigious school. Pei Chen had run away from home. He said he wouldn't do it if he didn't want to, refusing to take over the family business, leaving his bank cards and all his savings on his father's desk. Later, I learned of his ambitions. It was a year and a half later, from the other side of the world, as the seasons changed from spring to autumn, it seemed as though all the world's troubles and miseries had descended upon Pei Chen and me. I faced my 11th partnership rejection on the streets of London. Meanwhile, Pei Chen, amidst the chaos of war in Syria, lost his most expensive camera lens. His ambition was to be a war photographer, a passion rooted deeply in his heart since his days at the orphanage that took in numerous children abandoned during the Southeast Asian wars. During what would be our last phone call, amidst the blaring alarms of the war zone, Pei Chen told me, Lin Xia, I've figured it out. This is what I'm meant to do. All our subsequent communications were through letters, through his words. I could vividly imagine the scenes of relentless shelling and buildings shattered by the smoke of gunpowder. Yet, what struck me the most were the innocent, clear eyes of the children beneath the rubble. He recounted how he failed to save a little girl when enemy planes bombed their location. An officer dragged him to shelter just in time, but the girl was not so fortunate. Later, frantically searching through the ruins, he found only fragments of her pink dress, which led him to an emotional breakdown. Life often felt like a cruel joke, as if we were competing in our misfortunes through our letters. I was betrayed by a designer in my company, while Pei Chen nearly lost a leg to a bomb dropped near him. But eventually, fate seemed to loosen its grip. My design company began to pick up, and one of Pei Chen's photos was featured in an international exhibition. Upon winning an award, he said, if the falling bombs don't strike the soul, what about the pure eyes of a child beneath them? Such children, amidst war, are countless. Pei Chen sent many of his photos directly to me. Sometimes, I would help him select some to submit to journals and websites. One day, I noticed a phrase scribbled on the back of one of his photos, hurried yet firm, if your pictures aren't good enough, you aren't close enough. This, perhaps, encapsulates the essence of what drives individuals like Pei Chen to dedicate their lives. In the 5th year after leaving my hometown, our design company finally found its footing. I received a prestigious international award for my design work, marking a turn of fortune in my favor. I welcomed the dawn amid the sounds of the coastal waves, but I could no longer find Pei Chen. He hadn't contacted me for a long time, and for a whole year, there was no word from him. Such is the life of a war correspondent, visible in front of the camera one day, possibly gone the next. Forever remaining on the battlefield, unable to reach Pei Chen, I felt an anxiety I hadn't experienced in a long time. When had I started caring so much about him? Was it because of the relentless letters he sent, or the occasional calls from a war-torn area, or the photos he took and sent to me all at once? He once said, "Lin Xia, if one day I'm gone, could you sort through and publish them for me?" Snapping back to reality, I had already exhausted all my connections, repeatedly going through the letters he wrote to me. However, Pei Chen had been missing for too long. It seemed as if my luck improved as Pei Chen disappeared. The company grew larger, and my status in the fashion industry rose steadily, as if an invisible hand were pulling me forward. The joy of ascending, clearly something I had looked forward to, now enveloped me in a sense of loss that no one else could share. On New Year's Eve, I walked alone through the streets of London. Over the years, the British have also taken quite a liking to celebrating Chinese New Year. Even some streets were adorned with bright red lanterns. Yet, for me, this festive unity felt meaningless. As I walked with my head down, a pair of boots suddenly appeared before me. For some reason, at that moment, all the resentment, frustration, and grievances I had suffered in this foreign land erupted. I stared at the man in front of me, and whether it was hate or love, it was clear. But in the adult world, showing one's true feelings doesn't exist. It's all deception and flattery. At a banquet hosted by a local real estate tycoon, I met Jiang Shuhui. Now, my status was such that I could sit at an equal level with him. No, he even needed something from me. I watched as that man smiled and toasted me, as if he never dragged me into an abyss, never abandoned me. Yes, the adult world is nothing but deception and flattery. I clinked glasses with him, exchanged a few courteous words as if there were no hard feelings between us. Then I turned and instructed my assistant to go all out against Jiang Shuhui's company, because for the past few years, he had been obsessively helping Lin Qi, and Jiang's company's finances had broken down. He thought, considering our past relationship, that getting my sponsorship would be easy. Instead, I eagerly kicked him while he was down, pouring fuel on the fire of their financial shortfall. And then there was Lu Zhao. This man had pursued Lin Qi for years without success. Instead, he gave up on himself, living in dejection. I encountered him in the back of a bar, drunk and desolate. He was so downcast that I didn't even feel the urge to hit him. I kicked him as he lay numbed by alcohol, passed out. Then I told my assistant to release the stray dogs we had in the car. For a moment, in that deep alley, the air was filled with a man's screams and the howling of wild beasts. 25. So, the mastermind behind all this, my dear sister, Lin Qi, where has she gone? Fate has once again led us to opposing sides. Another bidding conference, only this time, the bid was decisive for my company's success in penetrating the domestic market. During the previous meetings, I saw my sister. She still liked wearing white dresses. As I expected, she rose to power on our father's coattails, thriving magnificently. She blinked her big eyes as we shook hands. She whispered in my ear, "Sister, how could you come back? Do you want me to take everything away from you again?" This was the little rabbit, showing her fangs to me for the first time. 26, I think. Perhaps, I truly threatened her this time. She squinted her eyes, smiling sweetly at me. I always vaguely knew she was scheming, but she hid it so well, and the people around her seemed bewitched by her. Pei Chen returned to the country 2 weeks before the bidding conference. At that time, I was frantically busy, preparing for this bid. To beat Lin Qi, I had to be thoroughly prepared, so much so that not even a nanomicroscope could find a flaw. After downing my 3rd cup of coffee, he demanded over the phone, "Come down, stop looking at that lousy draft." I got into Pei Chen's car, and then promptly fell asleep. No amount of caffeine could fend off the sleepiness. He sighed, reluctantly covering me with a blanket. I woke up at dusk. A slanted beam of dim light from outside the window seeped in. He was holding a camera, seemingly capturing something unknown. "Stop taking pictures." I rubbed my hair, telling him I hadn't even put on makeup yet. He put the lens cap back on the camera, then he handed me a folder with a wry smile. "Lin Xia, do you remember when you asked me if we should believe in fate? Now, I'm not sure anymore." I opened the folder. Inside were several photos. Lin Qi was seen holding hands with a man, entering several hotels. Pei-chan rubbed his temples and said, Gulingting, you know him, right? He's the boss of the company targeted in this bidding. This guy, I don't know how he does it, his business spans the whole country, and he has powerful backing. Look, he pointed at the photos. How many times has he been spotted entering hotels with Lin Chi? Any doubts about who will win this bid? It was almost like this bidding was a gift for his mistress, but that wasn't what caught my attention. I flipped through the photos over and over. I asked him, Pei-chan, you're a war correspondent. How do you even know the paparazzi? This angle, it's purely paparazzi work, isn't it? He coughed, his fist pressed against his lips. Cough, I took them myself. No regular journalist has my guerrilla photography skills. I put the photos away, then handed them back to him, smiling at him. I get it now. Actually, I have a friend who's been working in artificial intelligence. Before coming here, he had AI calculate my chances of winning the bid. Guess what it was? 37%, but still. I feel like I can win. He froze, then suddenly laughed. He raised his camera, aimed it at me, and asked, why? I used to think I was the secondary character, destined to be just a supporting role, always the expendable one. But what if I'm actually the protagonist of another story? What if someone is watching me, hoping for my comeback, hoping I win, hoping I defeat my destined rival? I looked into the camera, my lips curving into a slight smile, and softly said, I won't lose. 37%. At some moment, 37 will become 100%. Make sure you watch closely, it's going to be a grand finale. 27. The organizer of this bidding is that elusive CEO, Gulingting. I tried several times to meet him, but he never agreed, not until I mentioned my sister Lin Chi's name. Speaking of the grievances between us, finally, I got a 20-minute meeting opportunity. He was indeed the man of legend, with a very strong presence, every move exuding elite nobility, powerful enough to crush someone with a flick of his wrist. He lifted his chin, looking at me arrogantly. Miss Lin, even if you leveraged your sister to get a few minutes, I don't think there's much for us to talk about. I smiled at him, responding, Mr. Gu, everyone is saying that I bullied my sister. His gaze became slightly fixed as he stared at me, but I clearly didn't do anything. All the men are bewitched, standing by her side and trusting her completely. I'm worried, Mr. Gu, that you might be under the same spell. He looked visibly annoyed, glaring at me. You dare to second-guess me? I shook my head. I'm just advising you to choose based on business interests, remembering the fate of Jiang Shuhuai and Lu Zhao. I added, otherwise, you might end up regretting it after suffering the consequences. He scoffed. Why would choosing you be equivalent to choosing business? I paused, then prepared to get to the main point of today's discussion. Because, Mr. Gu, you know what my sister is really like. Had the proposals I've submitted over the past few days not been superior to my sister's, you can see that, can't you? This bidding might just be a little toy you're giving her. But have you considered that choosing me could bring greater benefits to your group? These benefits might seem minor to you, but what if they could trigger a larger chain reaction? The brand under my name went global in just 4 years since its inception. You are a rational businessman, not one to be swayed by romance, right? I only hope that you will treat this bidding process fairly. The man stared at me, saying nothing. I gave a slight bow, politely excusing myself. I didn't need a response from him. Planting this seed of thought was enough. Afterward, I threw myself nonstop into revising the proposal. The 20-minute meeting with him wasn't just idle chatter. To improve my interactions with clients, I'd even taken up some psychology. I formed a mental image of him, guessing what kind of proposal presentation he would prefer. From the report to my attire that day, down to the tone of every word, everything needed changing. It was a hectic 5 to 6 days. The day before the bidding, Pei-chan invited me to hike a mountain. I was feeling a bit weak, but he promised to let me rest afterward, and the reason we had to reach the top was that the temple there was said to be very spiritual. I couldn't help but laugh. Pei-chan, are you really that superstitious? His hands in his pockets, he stood under the temple archway. That day, when I found out Lin Chi was the little girl I missed in my childhood, I was actually moved. I stared at him in shock, then instinctively asked, then why don't you be with her? Because I don't believe in fate. The wind passing through the temple fluttered the red silk ribbons. He stepped closer to me, placing a red amulet on my collar. But now, I find myself uncontrollably wanting to pray to the gods in the temple, praying that they spare you, praying that they stand by your side just this once. He embraced me smoothly, our fingers entwined. pressing into each other's palms. I don't want you to be sad. I don't want you to feel resentful. I don't want you to put in so much effort, only to end up utterly defeated. Do you know, that day, when you called and asked me if we should believe in fate, I was nearly heartbroken. I stared at the sycamore tree in the courtyard. He raised his head and rubbed his soft black hair. I won't lose, Pei Chen. I've told you before, I won't lose. Suddenly, the day of the bidding meeting arrived. Lin Chi seemed to really like wearing white dresses. White indeed suited her well. Seeing me, she gave me a gentle smile. It was as if I wasn't her competitor, as if I was her long-lost elder sister. There weren't a few companies participating in the bid, but actually, most knew that the final winner would be either me or Lin Chi. One of us represents a strong, emerging brand, the other is the president's mistress. Lin Chi spoke first. She really did put in a lot of effort, but beyond effort, there wasn't much else. Not even able to surpass some second-tier companies, yet, there's something peculiar about her. Despite not being perfect, she could only make people notice her strengths. After she finished, it was my turn. Standing at the podium, I felt a bit dazed. The words I had to say had been rehearsed millions of times in my draft. I stared at the slowly falling shadows of the trees outside the window. The French plane trees swayed in the wind. I thought about a lot, as a child. I studied hard to earn my father's recognition. They called me fat, so I dieted to the point of hospitalization, with no one to visit me, no time for entertainment, practicing posture in front of the mirror at 4 in the morning, studying how to smile most beautifully, wearing a mask to handle each social interaction, learning violin, calligraphy, dance. I had to become excellent, very excellent. As long as I was excellent enough, I shouldn't lose anyone, right? But in the end, I was left with nothing. My bones were shattered, and I stood up and pieced them back together. When will such days end? Can I not keep failing? My speech ended. I won applause from the entire room. Everyone was impressed. This was the best I could do. Having practiced in front of the mirror millions of times, only one person remained unmoved. That was Gulinting, sitting in the main seat. He began to summarize the bidding meeting. The only proposal he mentioned was Lin Chi's. Listening to him, my heart began to sink. Did I fail again? Why can't I just accept defeat, over and over, until my bones shatter? This 0.37 probability, how could it ever be on my side? I looked up and met my sister's mocking gaze. She didn't even need to ridicule me. Just looking at me so gently was enough, as if saying, "Sister, did I push you into hell once again?" I sat there, forcing myself to stay composed. My stomach cramped, and I felt beside myself. I could barely hear what Gulinting was saying. I just heard him praising Lin Chi, saying he could see the pure heart of the person who prepared the proposal, and although it had flaws, it was the most beautiful work he had ever seen. As he spoke, the man in the main seat fiddled with the ring in his hand. Then, his gaze fell on me. However, I think the company that should ultimately be commissioned for this project, I want to give it to Miss Lin Xia. I suddenly looked up. The scene slowed down before my eyes, and the words spoken by Gulinting caused a stir in the conference room. Lin Chi suddenly stood up. I heard Gulinting say, "Miss Lin Xia, the perfection of your proposal makes it impossible for me to refuse. I am indeed a businessman, and I appreciate that you have delivered what you promised." He walked over and shook hands with me. I immediately maintained a polite smile. Sometime during the meeting, applause broke out in the room. Such appreciative glances seemed to fall on me after a long absence. Only Lin Chi stood up. Her eyes were red as she looked at Gulinting. Then, with a huff, she ran out. My vision blurred. It was as if I saw myself from many years ago. The little girl who was pushed into a toilet, the little girl who curled up into herself. She asked me, "Lin Xia, did you win?" I think I won, not against Lin Chi, but against my fate. 29. After leaving the company, I picked up my phone and called someone. He answered quickly. A light laugh spilled from the speaker. "How did it go?" "Guess." I blinked, teasing him. "I guess you got the contract." "Hey, photographer Pei, you guessed right." He laughed. A captivating laugh that made the corners of my mouth twitch uncontrollably. He asked me, "Where are you?" Eager to share the news with him, I was sitting next to a newsstand at the company's entrance. I told him the location, and he said, "Lin Xia, you haven't forgotten that today is your birthday, have you?" I had long been accustomed to not celebrating my birthday, but his words made me want to follow along. "So, what gift have you prepared for me, Pei Chen?" Go to the newsstand next to you and buy a magazine called The Protagonist. That day, the sunshine was just right, pigeons frolicked by the fountain, and the leaves lifted by the wind hid in the playful ripples. I saw, on the cover of the magazine called The Protagonist, my face was reflected. Pei-Chen was skilled at taking portraits, and it was not surprising that he contributed to some magazines. What surprised me was that my face could be featured on such a large cover. Yes. It was taken in the car that day. Half of my face was in the shadow, my eyes bright, looking at the camera. When he pressed the shutter, what I said to him was, "Make sure you watch me closely, for a grand finale." I chuckled. The wind lifted strands of my hair. Pei-Chen, holding his camera, stood opposite me. His voice came through the phone. "Even if the road ahead is rough, you will bravely press forward, Lin Xia. You are the protagonist of your story, always have been, extra." How many years has it been since that bidding? I am still not old, but my sister has already passed away. I stared at the photo on the tombstone. Just then, a well-manicured hand reached out beside me. He slowly caressed it, groping over the photo of my sister on her tombstone. Even though he wore sunglasses, I could tell that he was blind. Not just any ordinary blind man, he was Gulinting. Oh, now having lost his fortune, he became an ordinary person. "Hey, Chi-Chi, Chi-Chi," he murmured. His words choked by tears. "Can you forgive me? Forgive me. I shouldn't have taken one of your kidneys, shouldn't have donated blood to another woman while you were pregnant, shouldn't have forced you to donate your corneas. Look, I've given you my corneas. I shouldn't have broken your legs just to confine you. Chi-Chi, I didn't want to force you. I love you. I love you. I'm sorry." The man was in agony. I stepped aside slightly, wary of his tears spilling onto my trousers. Near Lin Chi-Chi's grave, there were also tombstones for Jiang Shuhui and Lu Zhao. It seemed they had both fought over Lin Chi-Chi, driven by jealousy. Both had driven off a cliff. It really left me without a sigh. I placed a white flower next to my sister's tombstone and walked away. Circling around the cemetery, a white sedan was waiting for me. Pei-Chen was leaning on the steering wheel, lazily watching me. "You're quite thoughtful. Visiting your sister's grave," I shrugged. "It's just to mock her fate, nothing more." He laughed, then started the car. Casually, he said, "Lin Xia, I'm headed to the Libyan battlefield next month." "Hey, you're always like this, back in the country for such a short time. Lin Xia, you're not getting any younger. You should find a partner, get married." "I don't know if I'll be able to attend your wedding." I interrupted him. "Pei-Chen, I'll go with you next month." He abruptly hit the brakes, stunned, trembling. He asked me, "What did you say?" I said, "I'll go with you." "The journalist who used to partner with you resigned, right?" I'll be your new partner. After all, with Lin Chi-Chi gone, I lack the motivation to stay. Your photos from the battlefield, who wouldn't be moved by them? I also want to make my life worthwhile." I finished speaking somewhat awkwardly. He suddenly pressed me against the car window. "What are you doing?" I slapped his back. There was a gleam in his eyes as he stammered, looking at me. "Do you really want to come with me?" I knew this guy. He liked me, wanted to whisk me away, but the nature of his job made it hard to say outright. I raised my hand and ruffled his dark hair. "Sigh, it's not just for you, Pei-Chen. One can't remain indifferent after seeing the horrors of war. Nowadays, the only way to turn public attention to the damages caused by war and call for peace is through your work, right? Would you laugh if I said I hope for world peace?" He nuzzled against my neck and softly said, "It's not arrogant, that's just the kind of people we are."